stereophonic sound for the home is recorded on two separate tracks, each one giving special emphasis to certain sections of the orchestra, as heard from those positions. Now, when played back simultaneously on two separate systems, the sounds are blended together to achieve a new dimension in sound, impossible to obtain in a monaural recording.
Everybody, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Come on in. Let's do it. Let's get into it. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning in the Queen City. Welcome to the show. I don't need to tell you my name because if you're listening, you already know. Nathan Ivey with you, your humble host. Barbara writes, those Lakers looked amazing last night. He's got a lot of laugh emojis. Oh, yeah. Good morning, Alt Middle. Yeah, I didn't watch the game live, but I saw the YouTube clips this morning. And let's just say it's going to be an interesting season. The Clippers are for real, even without Paul George, right? Good morning. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, what's up, Miss Sandra? Come on in here. Of course, come on in. We got a couple things to talk about. The R&B singer, Tank, is sus. We must discuss. That sounds like Dr. Seuss rhymes. He's sus, and we must discuss. We will discuss this morning. If you want to share your thoughts, 513-873-7134. I don't plan on talking extensively about the Lakers, although we'll see where the conversation goes. That did happen last night, the opening of the NBA season. For people who like it, enjoy it. If you would like it, enjoy it. Please take a minute and share this with your friends on Facebook or on Twitter or wherever you're on social media, Instagram. I'm going to put the YouTube stream up in just a minute. What grown man wants to grow up and play fairy godmother in a Cinderella movie? Hell is going wrong, man. We are losing it. Did you read that locally Clyde Bennett is going to be back to practicing law? You know, he had an issue and he was suspended for a year. Clyde Bennett is a black male attorney who is very well known. Last time I saw Clyde Bennett was at the Cincy Music celebration, and he always has a smile on his face. I mean, just from the smiles on his face and some of the Facebook photographs I've seen, he must have had some money put away as a nest egg because it didn't seem like he was lacking. You know, he's an attorney, had no income for a year. And he seems to have emerged on the other side, victorious. Ray, I got your message, and let me see, 5:30. We'll make it work. We'll make it work. We'll make it work. One way or another, I'm gonna get that to you. Believe that. Okay. Whether I got to meet you the day of or whatever, but I think we can make it work today. Have you seen this? This is like about I don't know, a few days old, but someone posted inside the Friends Who Like the Nathan Ivey Show. That's a closed Facebook group. This man got robbed at gunpoint sitting in the barber's chair. And see, now we know what happens when somebody pulls a gun. Everybody mind their business. The barber was right behind him. The barber walks right behind the guy. Everybody's just going on with their business while he's getting robbed. You know why? Because they don't want that smoke. Oh, he's here for him. Oh, okay. And then when something like that happens, you don't know why he's doing it. You don't know if he's being robbed. Apparently, this man drove up in a very expensive car, and he feels like somebody was just kind of watching. Now, that is such a defenseless position. You sit in the barber chair. You know what I'm saying? You sit in the barber chair, and true, you're under the barber's, I don't know what that is, blanket, whatever the hell it is, that covering he put over you. You're sitting in that. You could always have your weapon in your hand, ready in your hand, in your pocket or something like that, or in your lap. He's sitting in the barber chair. Somebody rolls up with a really bad mask. It's just like a T-shirt over the parts of his face, and pulls a pistol straight to his neck. He's got the barrel is on his neck. You know, that's intimidating. That's intimidating. Dale writes, what in the hell is going on here? Is he really robbing dude in a barber's chair and everybody around is walking around like they don't see it? We are living in the last days of common sense, Dale writes. Man, that's how it goes down. You know, you sit in a barber chair, somebody pulls a gun on one person and they ain't talking to nobody else and they just after them. It ain't a whole lot of heroes. You trying to get the hell out of Dodge like, oh, they must have a personal beef. Let me not get involved in that. Let me not get involved with their personal beef, right? You don't know what's going on. Damn, that is crazy. You got to watch that video. I mean, the barber is right behind the guy. He could have grabbed him, but he's got the gun on his neck. So if dude pulled the trigger, dude's catching a slug. Diana writes, he's got a gun. What are they supposed to do? I'm not trying to die over $5, right? The report is the man had $350 on him in cash. And then he has some credit cards and stuff like that. So the dude basically got $350 in cash. And he might have said, give me the ATM code, and if it's wrong, I'm going to come back and blast you. And maybe he gave him the ATM code or something like that. But she right. See, that's what's really going to happen when somebody pulls a gun on you and you sit in the barber chair. That's what's going to happen. The barber got kids. My barber has 3 children and a wife. What do you think he going to do? Oh, no. I don't see that happening at my barber. People got too much respect for my barber. I have the best barber in Cincinnati, by the way. He's the best. Whenever I go in there, man, he gives me the word. He's a very conscious brother. Conscious vegan brother. See, that means even more conscious, right? Good morning to you. If you would like to share your thoughts this morning, hey, I'd love to receive it. 513-873-7134 if you'd like to share your thoughts. Good morning to you. What's up, early riser? Not as early as we were previously, but early nonetheless. Ready, willing, and able to fight for the accused, attorney Clyde Bennett says. He's been reinstated. Shout out to Jesty. Appreciate it. After a year-long suspension, prominent Cincinnati area Clyde Bennett has been reinstated to practice law. Now, what did he do? What did he do exactly? He had I think he messed up his client somehow. He had a client who, let me Google this real quick. You might be thinking, well, Nate, you shouldn't have already. I like to do it live on the air. So he was Fox 19. Everyone's reporting it. Check out Clyde with that zoot suit on, man. With them wide shoulders. Clyde seems like a good dude. Apparently, he missed a deadline to file some required papers to appeal a case for his client. And then he wrote some BS down saying something like, maybe it was just inaccurate. He didn't mean to do it. But the board found the misconduct caused him to basically what he did, they felt like harmed his client. Yeah, damn it. And so he was sat down for a year. That's a long time. Could you survive a year with no income from your primary source of income? You got no income coming in from your primary source of income. Could you survive that? Or was he still willing to able to do some work, but he just couldn't do like certain things? You tell me. What in the hell? Alabama school teacher paints fake bullet wound on black second grader's forehead? Black people as props. It's a national problem. On the international front, Mitch McConnell has denied telling Trump that his Ukraine call was innocent. This Ukraine, well, as the Mason Marley puts it, Ukraine in the membrane. Hold on a sec. Sorry about that, Choppers. I had to step away for just 1 second. But as the Mason Marlowe put it, the Ukraine in the membrane, Trump is really caught up with this. And what's killing him is his own words. His own words are killing him. It's getting worse and worse every day. Worse and worse every day. Mm-hmm. I see you, James. I see you. Trump compared the impeachment process to a lynching. Clearly, this man doesn't understand the tragic history of lynching in America. He doesn't understand. He's not close to it. That's how you process this. And Trump is one of those people who will say anything when they get caught. Anything. There's a lot of folks he's not the only one like that. There's a lot of people like that. That's why there's some people that find Trump so attractive because, they admire it. They admire it, says John from Princeton, New Jersey. Hey, John, hold on a second, man. Setting up the show. Let me do this first. So he believes that an impeachment process that was started because of his own blunder is similar to a lynching. Let's sit for a while. I've got a few flows. I'll come back to that. We set the table here. As I said, Clyde Bennett, he's back. Quote, I am again ready, willing, and able to fight for the accused. I have prayed. This is still what God wants me to do. The passion, ability, and commitment to win cases for my clients is still there. There is still fire in the furnace. So Clyde Bennett says there's still fire in the furnace. It's a great thing, I guess. It's great. I did reach out to Clyde to see if he's available for a conversation. I'll let you know what he says. Jared writes, good morning, Team NI. Good morning to you, Jared. Sharp writes, great risings. Choppers, good morning to you. Brother Mazzone's in the house. Good morning. Broadway Flow, those Lakers, huh? Yeah, it was an interesting game last night. Very interesting. I didn't watch it live. I watched the YouTube clips, which is just good enough. But let's just say that the Clippers are real. Let's just say that. The Clippers are real, even without Paul George. So with Paul George, man, it's gonna be a hell of a team. CG Dub writes, good morning, Choppers. Let me remind you that if you are interested in getting your CCW, that's your concealed and carry permit here in Ohio, that the folks over at Ride or Die, we already did one session with them, and I have nothing but good things to say. And we'd like to do a second session on the 17th because there were a lot of folks who just weren't able to come. You know, I get it. But I promised that we would, or I said that we would put together another class. And so the 17th of November, which is about 4.5 weeks approximately today, 4.5 weeks from now, that is a Sunday. It will be an 8-hour affair starting at approximately 8 a.m. You know, time goes fast. The time goes fast, especially when you got a good group. People are interacting. The time goes pretty fast. And if this is something that you're interested in, then I'm sure that you're going to find what they present to you to be interesting. Okay? Very interesting stuff. So that will be on the 17th of November, and let me know. And when the event page comes around, just let us know. Let us know. All right, let me talk to my man John. I appreciate his phone calls. Even though some people try to say I don't act like it, but I do. Hey, good morning, John. How are you? Yo, John. Okay, so we're going to put John on hold because obviously he's walked away from his phone. All right. Muzon writes, Broadway, first game of the season. Calm down, brethren. It's an 82-game season. First game of the season was on, but from what I saw, the Clippers are real. They rizzle. Because what did you see? You saw hustle. You saw hustle and determination. You can't coach that. That's going to be a very, very, very dangerous team. Could they beat the Lakers? Well, they just beat the Lakers. Brenda writes, happy Wednesday. Muzon writes, I don't see why they kept KCP and traded Brandon Ingram, though. Brandon Ingram is a baby baller. Yes, he is. CG Double yawns. Muzon writes, the city loves to crucify black male attorneys. Well, the city, I don't know if it's specifically black male attorneys, but we do know this city has a problem with prominent black folks. You know it and I know it. You got black folks trying to keep their head down, trying to stay below the radar screen for various reasons, real or imagined. But that stuff with Clyde, that was a self-inflicted wound. I mean, you know, that's what it seems like. I remember Clyde came on the air and he told us about it. I don't remember what he said. That was a long time ago. I don't remember what he said in his explanation of it. And I think his explanation was he hadn't gotten paid or something like that, I believe. And so he felt like, that he really wasn't representing that guy. I think that's what he said. But whatever board this is, they thought otherwise. They said no and sat him down for a year. Sorrenthy writes, morning. Mason Mahler writes, morning, Nate and the Choppers. Hashtag Ukraine and the membrane. Hashtag everybody snitching on Trump. Yes, they are. We'll talk about it. Everybody is snitching on Trump. I also want to talk about the curious case of Tank. Tank is an R&B singer. And this is the latest outrage. Let's call it what it is. The latest outrage. And his comments, man, some of these comments, man, I guess it's just the new America that we live in. And just, I don't understand these brothers. First you got Malik Yoba out here talking about, he's attracted to trans women, which means he's attracted to men. I don't care. Nobody say that's what the way in my primitive brain, that's how I translate that. Again, some things should remain old school, like, if you were born with a vagina, you're a woman. Okay? Now, what if you remove your vagina? Well, you were still born a woman. I'm sorry. Okay, it is what it is. We must discuss what is up with these brothers. Huh? Is it the water? Is it the music? It must be the music. Yeah, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be the music. That's what it is. What in the hell are you posting in here, Akeem? What in the hell? I don't even know what this is about. I don't even know what the hell this is about. I just don't like the way it looked, bro. I'm just telling you. I'm sure it was completely legitimate. I just can't get past that initial image, Akeem. We'll holler back on that particular post inside the Friends page. I'm seeing it for the first time. Oh, dear Lord. Dear Lord. How many people out there, how many women out there are Tank fans? Are you a Tank fan? T-A-N-K. You're like, who the hell is Tank? He's an R&B veteran. And apparently he sat down with a popular podcast and was talking about a bunch of stuff. And I mean, again, I don't know how you define your sexuality, but to me, your sexuality in part is defined by your thoughts, I think first and primary, and then your actions. I think that's how you define your sexuality. Like, I don't think you have to actually have intercourse with anybody to still know what your sexuality is, right? I think so. But if you are performing certain sexual acts, then you are what you do repetitively. That means that if you are performing what they call homosexual acts, then that means that it's not too much of a stretch to conclude that you might be homosexual. And again, as you know, I don't care about that, but it's just interesting, this sexual fluidity that we see even in the black community. You got Malik Yoba, black man, dark-skinned brother. You know, he's been doing this thing in entertainment for a long time, conscious, all that kind of stuff. He comes out recently talking about how he's attracted to trans women. A trans woman, and maybe I'm saying it wrong, but a trans woman was biologically born a man, and then they made that transition. As a heterosexual man, in my own heterosexualness, I don't see that. You know, it's hard for me to see past the biology of it. You know what I'm saying? That's how I would determine it. Other people might determine it otherwise. Like, oh, he was born a man, but he don't have testicles anymore. You know, he got the surgery, so now you don't have testicles. Now you've got a vagina. Again, you've had the surgery, but that doesn't mean that you're any less of what you were born biologically. Again, in my own sexuality, I can't see past that. You know, in terms of my own personal choices. Like what other people do, I respect it 100%. I would vote for a trans politician. I would. As long as what they were saying was right and, you know, I felt like they could do the job and, you know, no other issues going to come up, I have no problem with it. I have no problem with it, whatever. But I'm talking about in terms of my own personal choice. Now, of course, I'm a married man, so my choices are limited. But I'm saying, let's say I was single. That's how I would look at it. I would not be able to look past the biology of it. Because to me, you are what you were born. That's just me. But Tank is out here talking about how you can perform oral sex on a man and still be not considered gay. What? Jigga, what? See, I'm all for this new masculinity. If it's going to go, you know, if it's leading to a broader conversation, maybe this is a broader conversation, but I don't know, man. Something about this. There's something going on. Like black men, we don't have to be anything other than what we are with our naturally born swagger. You don't got to be anything other than that. That's what I'm saying. The new masculinity. Who ordered that? I never ordered a new masculinity. I never say, you know what? We need a new masculinity. That don't even come into my head. So I appreciate these brothers getting outside of traditional hip hop constructs about what a man is and what a man isn't. But if you're performing oral sex on another man, that is a homosexual act. And I'm all for experimenting, but I also believe that there's boundaries even in experimenting. Like I'm not going to experiment past my sexuality. You know what I'm saying? I'm not interested in that. I've never been interested in that. Thought it's never crossed my mind. I'm not into that. You know what I'm saying? If you are, great. All right? Pete Buttigieg, do you. You know, I wouldn't look at a politician or a person any differently. But I'm talking about my own personal. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to experiment past my sexuality. I don't get it, but maybe you do. What in the hell is Tank talking about? Is this just some provocative shit to say on a podcast? Is that what this is? So Angela Yee poses, and again, this is going to be a little bit more mature. So Angela Lee poses this hypothetical question about, like, what if, and again, if you have children, I'm going to talk about this. What if, they wanted to be together, orally? What would that mean? This man says, it was just once, right? Just once. He says, quote, it was just once, right? Then he's like, I'm not sure if I liked it or not. Let me try it again. Then he says, you know what? It's not for me. Don't like the taste. I'm reading directly from this article on BET. I'm not making this up. Very provocative. I'm sure they're going to get a lot of clicks on there, but come on, damn it. Maybe he's just doing this to get the numbers up on the podcast. That'll get more downloads. No. I just don't think that heterosexual men are experimenting beyond the boundaries of their heterosexuality. I think that most heterosexual men are experimenting within those boundaries. Like, experimenting to a heterosexual man to me is like, okay, 2 women, 3 women, different types of women, different ethnicities, different positions, things like that. Not, let me go check this out over here and see if I like it. Because you already know what you like and what you don't like. The hell? A heterosexuality is not like fruit at a grocery store. I'm just sorry. I mean, for me, it's rigid, it's solid, and it's a fundamental part of who I am. Have always been. It ain't the same as like, oh man, I like grapes, so let me try some green grapes. I usually eat red grapes. It's nothing like that. It's nothing like that. So I don't know. Something tells me this is some of the stuff they say just on podcasts to get people talking. Like, oh, word. Let me check out the Angela Yee podcast. And then some of this is these dudes trying to be with the times and be gender fluid so they can expand their audience into the transgender audience or something like that. Or, maybe Tank really genuinely feels that way. I don't know. We may return to that. We may. I'm not sure. What in the hell? I'm telling you, see how these things all coming out? Boom, 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 boom. Tank's talking about his fluid sexuality, where he gets to experiment with people outside, men. Like, oh, we just experimented. When do we come up with that? Now, I know I missed the national black man conference, but when the hell did I only missed one meeting? What'd y'all discuss? Y'all must have came with some agreements without me, because I don't remember any of that. Oh man, it's just a story. And then you got Billy Porter talking about he wants to be the next fairy godmother in an upcoming Cinderella movie. Oh, just what we need. Just what we need. Billy Porter dressed up as the fairy godmother in a Cinderella movie. My daughter won't be watching that shit. She ain't watching that. I wouldn't let my daughter watch Cinderella anyway. I don't think she's ever seen it. If she has, listen, Cinderella? Hell no. Hell no. We don't do that. We're not those kind of people. So a few things on my mind this morning. 513-873-7134. Has anyone been seeing campaign ads on TV besides Matt Bevins, which is Kentucky? Has any Cincinnati Hamilton County school board, judges, seats, etc., campaign ads been running on local TV channels? All I've seen are Matt Bevins. Well, you probably see them the last week of the race. That last week or two of the race, and I think we're very close here. Yeah, next week is the last. Yeah, so next week, so we're 2 weeks away basically now. So next week, you'll probably see, if anybody has any money. In terms of flyers to my home, the only flyers to my home that I've received is from a school board candidate so far, has been Ben Lindy. Ben Lindy seems to have a well-funded campaign. I can't recall offhand how much money it costs to run a local sort of ad campaign to register voters, but his campaign has the money to do that. Yeah. It makes you wonder, why does Ben Lindy want to be on the school board? He's got a good life. He's already working with Teach for America, having an impact. Why be on the school board? I don't know. Find out. Let me see here. Is this true? I'm done with black men. Only white men for me now. Oh, boy. Oh my gosh. See, white women don't do that. When white women get fed up with white men, they don't have to go on TV and do a Facebook Live post and get a television special and write a book about the 12 ways that black men did them wrong. They just move the hell on. Black women got to write books. They got to give up on the brothers. Oh, it was the worst thing. Oh, I'm going to start thinking for something new now. Okay, go do it. Shut up about it. White women don't do that. Speaking of white women, I've got a clip I want you to hear of a video that's gone viral. You may or may not have seen it, where a white woman from the Dallas area is talking about Tatiana Jefferson, who was killed, and talking about her white privilege. Have you seen it? She was at a public event. Looks like if she may have been a city council or some kind of town hall or something like that. And she dropped hot fire using an example that happened to her and then comparing it to what happened to Tatiana Jefferson. I got that for you. We'll play it in just a couple of minutes. You got to hear that. I'm telling you, these sisters, man, every time now, what is this? Kenya Moore from the Real Housewives or something, Atlanta. Oh, she just got married and then she got divorced already because her husband wasn't no good. That's her fault. You just don't know how to pick them. Some people just don't know how to pick a good mate. It's just what it is. But they want to blame everybody else. You just are not good at picking good mates. You don't know what you're looking for. Sad. Or you're just not lucky. You're just not lucky. But white women don't do that. White women, oh, I'm leaving white men because I'm going to black men because white men they just mistreated me. My baby's daddy's white. I got two of them. They're both white. And they both mistreated me and lied on me and cheated on me. And they write a book or they do a vlog or some other way to get attention. And they try to make a big deal out of it. Instead of just moving on. Just chalk it up to the game. Move on. Nobody's fault. It's just what it is. It's nobody's fault. It is what it is. Good morning to you. Back to your chat. We never got John on the line, did we? See, Brenda writes, happy Wednesday. Muzon writes, I think I read that. Catching up here, sorry. Cleveland, this is for you, okay. Bunky writes, LA, this one's for you. Leonard is the silent assassin. It was good. It was good fun, yeah. Pat writes, good morning. Tracy writes, hi. Ray writes, grand risings. Fame writes, good morning. Tank is a jerk-off, like Sonny from a Bronx tale. What? From a Bronx take says. You mean Sonny from a Bronx tale says? I think you do. Buzon writes, come on, y'all, acting like the Lakers got blown out. It was a good first game of the season. The Lakers going to be all right. Yeah, they will. Yeah, it's going to be some great basketball for those that's into it. Kelly writes, good morning. Tiffany writes, hi. Mike Jones writes, good morning. Tracy writes, good morning, choppers. Been dealing with some bitch assness at work. Had my tire slashed Monday. I know who did it, but I can't prove it. Hashtag fuckery. What? Somebody slashed your tires? Seriously? Man, I'm sorry you had to deal with that, man. Damn, what's going on, Tracy? I'm curious now. I'm telling you, man, bitch assness. I'm sorry, I'm just cursing or something. I'm just cursing. Talking about, mature stuff. But bitch assness at the workplace, man, is at an all-time high. It depends on where you work and who you work with. I mean, it's just some people that will try to hide behind being at work to try to save their ass. Some people are really good at that too. Damn, somebody slashed your tires? What you say to them? What you do, Tracy? Well, what could you possibly have done that would make somebody slash your tires on the low? I'm hella curious. Hey, folks, please take a second and share today's show. Fame writes, perhaps Muzon, but LeBron is an old poor man's LeBron. Remnants of his dominance are there, but on the whole, there's been a significant drop-off. God damn, AD is special. He is, but I'm with you on that. I can't agree with anything, disagree with anything you said. Yep, cussing before 8:30. I know, I'm sorry. It's 9:30, actually. Damn, TFC. Are there cameras in the parking lot or garage? Right. That's the first thing I'll be thinking, like, cameras. Man, that's some low down dog ass just need to get dealt with type of stuff. You slashing people's property? Anybody that's slashing tires like that, they got a history of slashing tires. They ain't just slashing tires for the first time in their 40s. I'm sorry. I don't believe that. Is that right? Tracy writes, yep, but ask me if they work. So they got, isn't that the worst? Is there a bigger letdown when something happens than to find out that the cameras don't work? Is there a bigger letdown? I'll say it again. CPS should do a system-wide check in every single school, even the lesser performing schools, especially there, to make sure that the cameras are working. Is there a bigger letdown? You're like, there's a camera right there. Oh, ma'am, it don't work. And you thinking, shit, if I did something, the motherfucker will be working, right? Sorry. Renee writes, good morning, everyone. Hey, Renee, good to see you. Mike Jones writes, Braun and AD shot bad percentages. That won't continue. Pamela writes, good morning, Nate. Wow, everybody's saying, wow, I hate to hear that. What happened? She writes, it's nothing but a little white supremacy. A little white supremacy? That's a lot of white supremacy. Speaking of which, last night I got a chance to see the opening of that new show, The Watchmen. It stars Regina King, so I'm well within my wheelhouse, okay? Because anything Regina King, she even got ties to the area here in Cincinnati, so it's okay to watch anything Regina King's in, even if it's something like The Watchmen. So I wanted to see the opening because the opening of The Watchmen, which is a brand new HBO series, matter of fact, I think it's the first episode, I didn't get through the whole thing. I saw the first maybe 15 minutes. And so it opens up in Tulsa, 1921 at the race riots. You don't get a chance to see what's going on, and there's a family that's dealing with something in the backdrop as they're trying to get their son out. And, white folks is killing black folks in the streets, just mowing them down. KKK with rifles mowing them down, one after another. Women, children. There was even an airplane that was dropping bombs. I'm not making it. And I thought, man, I don't remember this in the history books. Was there an airplane that was dropping aerial dynamite, like right on black businesses and black homes from the sky? Yeah, it was deep. So I watched the first 15 minutes of it and then moved on to some other things just because I want to get a chance to see it. We had talked about it at length yesterday. And we just found out Tracy's dealing with a little white supremacy. I don't think there's any such thing as a little white supremacy. Cassandra writes, hey, choppers. If a woman had said what Tank said, would she be sus? It's such a double standard. Cassandra, you're right. It is a double standard. It is for a reason. There's a double standard for a reason. And you're right. If it was a woman, some people would be like, oh, that's sexy. You're right. You're right. But I think men and women look at it differently. And I don't know. I take it differently coming from a male point of view. Tracy writes, can we talk about the guard who got his job back and the 1,000 kids that backed him? Mm-hmm. Is that right? Oh, man. Marlon Anderson, who we spoke about, security guard, is going to get his job back after telling a student not to call him the N-word, and that's not what he told the student. He didn't say the N-word. He actually said the word. He wrote on Facebook, now we have to address the policy. God is good. But again, I understood the policy. The policy was for the adults, not for the kids. And if you have a policy for the adults, then the adults must adhere to the policy, even if the kids don't. If you don't know what happened, Marlon Jack Anderson, black man, lost his job as a security guard at a school. What did he do? It's a high school. Well, apparently these young men were calling him a nigwa, but they were saying the word, N-I-G-G-A, okay? And so he got caught in his feelings and was caught on surveillance, caught on video, caught on audio saying, don't call me a nigwa. Now, he didn't say, don't call me the N-word. He actually used the words. And that violated the school's policy, and therefore he was fired. Should he have been fired for that? I can make a case either way. Either way, even if he wasn't, he shouldn't have been fired. And this is why I'm going to say, and I'm going to go ahead and put it like this. The man was wrong. Marlon Anderson, even though he's getting his job back, that's because the school is succumbing to pressure. The man is wrong because he violated the policy. Now, there's degrees of violations. Is this the kind of violation where he should have automatically lost his job the first time? I can make an argument either way. But I don't think that anybody listening right now, including Tracy, can disagree with what I'm going to say next. That if it happens again, then he should be fired. Like, there's no circumstance in which an adult should be able to use the N-word with a student. Even if the student has used that N-word against the adult, there's no circumstance in which you're going to think that's okay. If that was your kid, you're not going to think it's okay. So it's like he was wrong, but because there's so much sympathy for him and an outpouring of emotion and things like that, it looks like he's going to get his job back. So what he says, the policy should be addressed. So they should change the policy to read, adults can't use the N-word unless a student calls them the N-word first. That's a dangerous and irresponsible policy. And then he wants to cry, oh, culture, come save me. Black culture, come save me. Oh, I was just saying that I don't want to be used the N-word, right? Well, you shouldn't use it. You should be the example that you want to set. He got in his feelings, got all mad. He calling me the N-word. Come on, man. And then that's what happened. Do I think the man should have been fired? I could make an argument yes, and I can make an argument no. The fact he's getting his job back, you know he's getting his job back with one caveat. Don't use that word again. You know that. Anybody listening right now knows he got his job back with one caveat. Don't do it again. And if they're able to give him his job back and give him that caveat, that just underscores how wrong he was in the first place. He didn't have to use the N-word to make his point. He could have said N-word instead of using, don't call me a nigger. Some black people get real sensitive about that. Let's go to the show, to the phones. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Nathan. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah,
today?
I am pleasant and I'm present. Listen, man, you know how Good Times, the TV show, you know how it like fell off instantly once the husband James died, was killed off?
True.
You know, I like the whole show, the setting, the energy, everything of it just fell off instantly.
It was different, yes.
That's what LeBron is right now. He's Good Times without James Evans. His whole game, you can see it. It's significant, the fall off. If you'd watch that whole game, I'm sitting there like last, minute and a half, 2 minutes, he's letting Patrick Beverly get rebounds on him. He's like 7, 8 inches taller and 50 pounds heavier than Patrick Beverly, and the ball comes right between them, and he lets Beverly get it. He was reckless with the ball. His passes didn't have any crispness to him, no velocity. I'm telling you, if you watch it, his drop off is significant and very visible. But he had that much to lose because he finished with 18, 9, and 8. That's a very damn good NBA stat line. But for him, nah, bruh, you might want to watch how you go out and how you're remembered. That's all I'm saying. Now, As far as bruh out there and they got his job back, I'm with you on that. Like just because he got his job back doesn't mean he wasn't wrong in the first place. He needs to be able to temper his language around children. That was a very significant mistake he made. He should have showed the children a better way of communicating and, being more professional in a public setting or just being more affable, period. Like there was no need for him to say that to that kid. So I'm with you on that. Like, and I can't believe it is churning my stomach. But also what's churning my stomach is Tank. What is it? How does he get to define what's gay? Are you there?
Well, don't we do that for our individual selves?
I mean, no, but I mean, it's very simple. You're either attracted to your own sex or you're not. I'm not. I don't know about you, but I'm not. I don't know what Tank's talking about. Just because you do that twice, it don't make you gay. Like, what? It means you enjoyed it the first time. So, yeah, you damn sure are gay. Like, what's up with dude? At first it was, there's too many variants on sexuality anymore. At first it was kind of, visceral that they were trying to, push a gay agenda on us. Then it became kind of blatant. Now it's about downright obnoxious. You know what I'm saying? You dead wrong saying you would vote for a transsexual candidate. Why? They have a history of making bad decisions. So why would you vote for them? Why would you suggest that it's okay to push homosexuality with the hip hop culture and saying that they're changing the construct of what traditional manhood is or whatever or however you phrased it? How do you get to be counterculture within a counterculture?
Well, to answer your first question for me directly as to why I would vote for a trans candidate, well, that's because putting their sexuality aside, just like it wouldn't hold somebody's homosexuality against them, and I'm not going to hold your heterosexuality against you, putting that to the side, if you have policy ideas that I think are in line with where I'm trying to get to, where I think the community should go, and I think you're realistically, sincerely can do it, then that's what being a politician is all about. Not judging who you sleep with. That's why.
I'm not judging who you sleep with. I'm judging your decision making to change your sex, to become gay. I'm judging your decision making.
You are.
And usually,
and I'm not.
If you're going to have those type of policies, they're more likely going to be not feasible on a long-term basis because they're going to be wild and outrageous on some level, like it's wild and outrageous to change your sex.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that you telling me that heterosexuals, or at least people who appear to be openly heterosexual, have been doing such a great job as politicians to this point? They've been making all the great decisions? No. So
no,
obviously your sexuality is not the biggest factor as to whether you're going to be an effective, public servant or not.
No, your decision making is.
Because heterosexuals ain't doing such a great job.
Changing your sexuality is a decision
I'm just saying, are heterosexuals doing such a great job? Look at the world around and look at the current history. So no. That's why I say your sexuality, as long as you know who you are, you got that in check, that's not something that's bleeding to your everyday politics, and yet you coming up with some ideas that I think that matter. It makes me no difference whatsoever. Because
if you're so unhappy with yourself that you change your sex, why the hell would I want you making decisions on my behalf?
Well, that's one way of looking at it. The way they look at it is that they were born a gender that was really not natural to their brain chemistry, or the way they look at themselves.
Okay, so you're chemically imbalanced is what you said. Another reason why I don't want you making decisions on my behalf.
Well, there's a lot of heterosexuals who are chemically imbalanced. Look at the world around you.
Okay, but they're only halfway messed up. You went so far, not you, but these trans people that you are so sweet on, they went so far as to change their sex. I'm so unhappy with myself and things. I'm going to change my sex. By the way, vote for me. I got your best interest at hand too. FOH. And I'll holler at the next moon. Oh!
Yeah, we can agree, disagree. Like I said, you can have your own opinion and the way that your construct. I'm giving, if you ask me a direct question, I'll try to answer it. I'm just giving you mine. That's how I look at it. You know what I'm saying? I'm a black man. You know that as soon as you meet me. But I'm a humanist as well. And we all American-born citizens. I'll say it again. Everybody should get the same chance to chase the carrot if that's what you want to do. You should have the same rights and privileges as every other person here, despite your sexuality. Personally, it ain't my thing. I don't really understand it. But we're not talking about that when we're talking about politicians. It ain't my personal thing. But I understand that if you personally feel some way about somebody, you ain't going to vote for them. So I get it. We are talking about this security guard who was fired after telling a student not to call him the N-word. He's got his job back. And some people are happy about that. Yeah, they're very happy about that because you know what it is? All this is basically a slap in the face to black people. That's all this really is. All these kids is rallying up because they don't really understand the fact that this man who is an adult, number one, this man shouldn't get his job back because I'm telling you, he don't have the right mental. He's thinking like children. When I worked in a school building, I'm not a kid. Those kids didn't need me to be a kid. I was a grown man for them. I didn't act like a child. I wasn't trying to be a 12th grader. I'm a grown man here. That's my role. Kids don't need adults acting like kids. His defense was, they called me the N-word first. You're the security guard. You're a grown man. Why are you reducing yourself to the level of a student as if you both have the same rights, privileges, and responsibilities? You do not. When you're an adult working in a school environment, you're not on the level of the students. You shouldn't be interacting with the students like that. They are not your friends. Those kids are not your friends. You want to be friendly, but you are not their friend. That's not your role. He stepped out of himself, got emotional, and then he wants to use the race card, basically, to try to save his ass. And because people don't understand the complexities and how basically he disrespected the responsibility, that's what he did. They're going to roll with it. Because who are the victims? Well, the victims, ironically, are also the kids that started it all. You know, by I'm not your nigga, I'm not your nigga. You don't have to do that. He did not have to do that. That's not the first time that an adult has been called the N-word. It's happening right now in CPS. It's going to happen today. And those adults are going to handle it better than this guy did. The more I think about it, he don't need his job back. I'm going to go out and say within a year, he won't be there. I'm going to go ahead. Let's prognosticate. Within a year, he won't be there. He won't be there within a year. He'll be somewhere else. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I ain't wishing he's unemployed or anything like that. But sometimes you can tell, just like yesterday we was talking about that buster-ass Cory Booker, I'm not going to vote for him just because of this BS. He's reading some World War II novel to Rosario Dawson. You know, she bored as hell. You know, she got to be bored. Oh, I'm going to read a book to you. Read a book? I'm not saying I'm against reading books, but come on now, we can come up with a little more conversation. Let's talk about current events. That's some weak-ass ish, man, that a grown man shouldn't be doing, okay? Not under those circumstances. I looked up the book. I'm thinking it was going to be some like Donald Goines, Little Iceberg Slim, Elmore Leonard. Should I even take J.R. Tolkien over this dumbass book that he's reading to her? You know, she is bored out of his mind. Her mind with this dude. Reading a book over the phone. Anyway, back to this high school security guard. Marlon Anderson. He's worked for the district for 11 years. He's going to get his pay and benefits back immediately. And that's because they're not outraged at this black man using the N-word with these kids. They ain't outraged by that. They don't understand the kind of environment. And I'm going to tell you that the principal or whoever made the decision to get rid of him sat him down and said, look, Marlon, I'm glad we're going to bring you back. Seems like you got a lot of support. But here's the policy. Okay? And if Marlon breaks the policy, he is gone. You can believe that. Because whoever let him go wanted to let him go anyway for it. Whoever let him go did it for a good reason. Because Marlon's not mature. Marlon is not mature. That is not what a mature adult in a school building who's dealing with children, who are dealing with stuff at home, they bring it to the school, all kind of nastiness, I've seen it. This ain't uncommon. What's uncommon is the way that this immature man dealt with it. You don't get in your feelings when you're dealing with kids that's got issues. You don't do that. You above all of that. Let them better. Oh, okay, I hear you. They're just acting out. They're just acting out. You know, acting tough. Some of these kids they ain't been learning no other way to deal with stuff but aggression. Got a problem? Aggression. Don't understand something? Aggression. Feeling outside your comfort zone? Aggression. That's all they know. They bring it to the schools. You got to be sensitive enough to just let that go, man. Your pride, his pride wasn't at stake. His black cultural identity wasn't at stake because he's dealing with these kids that's dealing with some issues in a high school building and they call him a nigwa. But he thought it was, oh my God. Knowing damn well if some brothers on the block call you that and they mean it that way, he gonna keep on walking. I mean, why are you making a mountain out of a molehill? It ain't that big of a deal. That's how I look at it, but you tell me. It seems to me there's a lot of sympathy out there. But we'll see. If a woman has said, I think I read that. Can we talk? We did. Bunky writes, Tank is moist. There is an agenda to effeminize black men. You know what? I'm starting to believe that, Bunky, that there is an agenda to effeminize black men. It is. It is. But who the hell wants to be, what man wants to be effeminate? Who feels that way? No. I don't understand it. Let me go back here. Do you remember, it's relevant to the conversation, we talked about the effeminization of black men. I came across this most recently. Like I told you, I love YouTube, man. There's a really dope YouTube channel called, what is it called? It's called Comedy Hype. You should check it out. And they delve deep into like black comedy, history, and culture. You know what I'm saying? We all grew up watching these comics and stuff, and it was a part of black culture. And they're doing some really cool stuff over there. And they most recently did an interview with Brandon T. Jackson. Remember Brandon T. Jackson? Brandon T. Jackson. You can Google it. Black man. And let me see, T. Jackson. And he was a rising star. Funny guy. He had done some really cool movies. And one movie that he did was Big Mama's House. Remember that series, the Big Mama's House series? Like I told you, everybody is giving, while we're talking about the effects of this culture to effeminize black men, we got to recognize that, okay, so if we believe that that's true, how do you now judge Tyler Perry? How do you judge Tyler Perry? Because this man is getting mass props. I was on Instagram, on P. Diddy's Instagram, him and his sons, little Al B. Sure son that he made his son. Him and his sons went to the grand opening and they were just blown away. And you know, if P. Diddy says he's blown away, it must have been an amazing spectacle. They were at the opening of the big black-owned movie theater owned by Tyler Perry. But I'll say it again. We celebrate that. But he built that off of Medea, which was a black man dressed up in a dress, telling jokes, jumping around. Like Brandon T. Jackson did in Big Mama's House 3. Remember that? And people criticized this movie. They criticized the whole series because, you know, it was Martin Lawrence's chance to wear a dress. And he was Big Mama, oh, Big Mama, but he was really a cop. And, you know, if you look at the kind of comedy, you could say it was almost like gender fluid comedy because In one of them, he was playing opposite Nia Long, right? And so you got Martin Lawrence, who's this cop, but at the same time, he's dressed up as a woman, but his heterosexuality overcomes the way he looks, and he's shooting game at Nia Long, right? What the hell? Huh? What? Where Brandon T. Jackson was in one of those movies. And I watched his video on Comedy Hype. He said it was the worst decision of his life. He said wearing that dress was the beginning of the end of his career. That dress will do you in, man. Brandon, you Google him right now. You be like, oh, yeah, this brother. He's been out of Hollywood. I don't know what happened. I didn't watch the entire video on Comedy Hype, just that part, but he clearly said, like, man, wearing that dress was not a good thing. Yeah, Martin Lawrence he had a little protege in Big Mama 3. It was Brandon T. Jackson. It was, I don't know if Brandon T. Jackson was like a rookie on the force. Had him dressed up. Big Mama's little sister or something like that. I don't even remember the plot line. But even back when those movies came back in the 2000s, people was talking about this effort to effeminize black men. To soften your swag. They want to moisten your swag. You think it's real? Then Tank's out here. And Tank has always been like an R&B crooner type, like always singing to the ladies with his shirt off and all this kind of stuff. I can't think of any Tank songs. I'm sure the ladies can think of all the Tank songs. But he's always been that type. Now he's talking about, well, if you just... What you know? When we what? What? When we... what are you singing? That's his song? It's got a whole different meaning now. Hey... I got a meeting downtown, about 3. Hold on, choppers. Okay, I'll take care of it. All right. I'm in my home studio, connected with the wifey, and she rolls out, looking stunning as usual. Mazone writes, Tracy, I know what you mean. I work where I'm the only black guy on my shift and 2 black guys in the whole building who works first shift. I get a lot of my equipment messed with, test frames messed with, missing specimens, etc. But just keep pushing to outperform all of them. Like none of that ish bothers me. They hate that at Tracy. Wise words from Brother Muzone. I'm going to have to get some Brother Muzone clips in here, man, for when we have Muzone in here. Dropping fire. Appreciate the flows this morning. Yeah, if you missed it, man, we don't like that. Choppers support choppers. Oh, no. Tracy says somebody slashed her tires at the job. And I'm like, wow. Damn, that seems a bit extreme. We go into people's cars? But again, man, I mean, really, the job itself that people got to do every day is easy, right? It's the humans that F it up. You know what I'm saying? It's the humans. It's the humans with their attitudes, their resentments, their jealousy, their envy, they mental issues, their addictions. That's what makes working so hard. Supervisors who really shouldn't be supervisors. Dumbass rules and policies and regulations for no reason whatsoever. And then you top on the unequal pay between the workers, the executives, the owners, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, so it makes the day so hard. It ain't the job. It's these idiots on the job. I already know. Fools making your job 10 times harder than it really has to be. If people just did their job, right? I've been there. Tank is campaigning to get balls in. What? Tank is campaigning to get balls in his jaws. What the hell? Let me go to the phones here. We got none other than Drop on the line. What's going on, Drop?
Oh, Nate, Bunky is a fool. Oh, Mr. Ivy. Balls and jaws. Oh, my goodness. Your show is, man, you on the roll this morning, Mr. Ivy. But unfortunately, I have to agree with Fame Rothstein, a.k.a. the conceited bastard again. Mr. Ivy, I am glad that you are finally seeing the demasculation of black men in America.
Finally.
What'd you say?
Finally? Question mark. I've been hip to this for 25 years.
Well, I mean, you were kind of pushing against the grain a few times since I've been listening to you. When Fame would call in and point out these things that were blatant, how media culture is trying to emasculate black men. And now with
I don't recall.
With the come out, I know you don't, but trust will verify. But with the come out of Malik Yoba, now with Tank, it's pretty. And then you remember the Gillette commercial that was running during I think it was Super Bowl. I mean, yes. And if you look at mainstream, look at TV, Nate. Can you name one white transgender person that's openly transgender, and they're trans white actor on TV or on cable? No, you can't. But I bet you can name some black ones. I bet you can name some black ones, can't you?
Well, on YouTube, there's a lot of prominent white transsexuals or men that do makeup and stuff like that on these channels.
No. I'm talking about on television where America sees those images. Okay, I'll tell you, Nate. On the TV show Stars, which airs on Fox, there's a black transgender who's Queen Latifah's son. On the TV show Empire, there's a black one on there. On RuPaul Drag Queen, another black transgender, RuPaul. On the TV show Orange is the New Black, another black transgender that all of America sees. And then, of course, obviously, you mentioned in the movies with Tyler Perry, Martin Lawrence, who else did it? Wesley Snipes did it. I mean, the Wayans brothers did it. You can go down the line of all these black actors that have done it. Now, yes, there have been a few white that have put on dresses in movies, but it's not even enough that you can name them. I mean, the only one that really pops out is Mrs. Doubtfire with Robin Williams.
Right, man.
Other than that, you gotta go way back.
You had that Tu Wong Fu movie, so what Patrick Swayze did it, along with
Ving Rhames. Wesley Snipes.
Wesley Snipes and Ving Rhames.
That's true. Yeah, but back.
I mean, wait a minute, man. There's a big movie that's all about this, man. I mean, this gender fluidity. It's called the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I mean, that's a cult classic.
Yeah, but do you remember the other cult classic that came out in the early 90s, late 80s called Paris is Burning?
I don't, but I'm just saying you can't underplay the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I mean, they still play that now in theaters across America to select audiences.
Yeah, that's true, but I'm talking about in the black culture.
Yeah, but you asked me, was there any examples of white people? And I gave you the most culturally significant one, and that was a character played, was Square Brad, right? In that crazy-ass movie. I mean, I mistakenly went to the theater one time and saw a little bit of it. I had to get the hell out of there. People was dancing in the streets. White dudes was dressed up like women. This is back in I guess the 90s, late 80s, 90s maybe, early 90s.
Right.
So.
Right. I mean, culturally, this is really not new, but if you look at where black eyes are on TV, shows that predominantly are watched by black people. And I'm telling you, Nate, again, I have to agree with Fame because Fame has his eye on the culture, how this thing is slowly evolving. Okay, now I hate to bring his name up because I know it might trigger some people in the chop shop, but Barack Obama was on the cover of Time magazine with the headline, "The First Gay President," Nate, and nobody pushed back on it. Do you remember that?
I don't, but I'm sure there was a lot of pushback on it.
Trust will verify, because think about it, Nate. At the time it happened, I was shocked that Obama wasn't outraged. But, again, it's that societal evolution and the cultural evolution of black people because they're getting this money, Nate. And if not for all these shows, okay, like the show that exposed R. Kelly, the show that exposed Michael Jackson, the shows, I mean, I can go down the list of these internet shows, these podcast shows that are run by black people. I don't necessarily know if the money behind them is all black money, because a lot of times it's white money behind these black shows, i.e. Hollywood. So all I'm saying, Nate, Sam Rothstein is on the cutting edge of black cultural evolution because, Nate, I am glad that you are the type of father that you are. And at least your words will be heard by other people because you have way more credibility because you are a black family man that is raising a male and a female. And it is very important, Nate, that you control your children as far as what they see. Because at some point, Nate, you know you're going to lose it and they're going to be under the influence of their peers and they're out in their world where you can't control anymore. So you keep doing what you do. And again, I'm not in the alt middle, but I'm telling you, Nate, I agree with Shane Rothstein, Omar, and some of the other people more than I do with the overseer, Mr. Mason Mahler. But that's neither here nor there. I just appreciate that you give me the time to express my point of view because I don't even want to talk about the other issue that you brought up about the first orange president because the man is brilliant how he uses his Twitter feed. You know, that's all I got to say. So, again, Mr. Ivy,
fan this
great
morning,
show.
huh? Okay.
Huh?
Appreciate it.
What's that?
I said you just a Trump fanboy, aren't you? Trump can do no wrong in your eyes.
Nate, you don't want me to talk about that because I express myself on Twitter. Just look at my timeline this morning. I put it all out there, and it's pretty obvious what he did and how it worked. Because, again, I'm not going to talk about it unless you ask me to. So I'm going to hang up now because you're not asking me to talk about it, and I'll just wait until another moment. But, again, the first orange president, he is also the first gangster president. Drop Squad 52, dropping science to anyone who wants to catch it. Peace.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and rack them. Thanks for the call. And let's turn our attention to local matters here. Some local news that people will be discussing in Cincinnati circles throughout the rest of the day is that looks like Winburn is back. Charlie Winburn, everybody's favorite black local Republican, Charlie Winburn. Looks like he's going to be running for county auditor. Current auditor is going to be running for another position. And Winburn is generally well-liked. He's ridiculed and well-liked at the same time. People ridicule Winburn. At the same time, Winburn is very well-liked. And if you don't know, Charlie Winburn is a black male Republican, former member of city council. And this is going to be in 2020. He wants to be what's being reported here by Cincinnati Biz Journal is that he's expected to run for the treasurer's office. The current incumbent Republican Robert Goering is expected to run for Porter County Police judgeship. Apparently, Alex Triantafilou inadvertently preempted Winburn's official announcement. And it looks like, if you're wondering, okay, so if he's running as a Republican, who's going to run as a Democrat? Looks like Jill Schiller, who ran for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District against Brad Winstrup, white man Republican for Columbia Tusculum, and is expected to be the Democratic candidate for treasurer. So perhaps Charlie Winburn, black male Republican, against Jill Schiller, white female Republican. So now it begs the question, okay, so what do we know about treasurer? And apparently Winburn has a track record of being able to raise money. Now, everybody likes Charlie Winburn. Democrats like him. Republicans like him, of course. This will be in the end. So that adds even more spice to 2020. Next year is going to be, and again, it's already shaping up to be, we're less than 2 months away from next year. Well, less than 3 months away from next year. Still got November and December to go through. But it's going to be very interesting. And so the question is, how involved do you want to get involved with it? You know, what are we going to do differently this time around that will have an impact in these local elections that will have more of a benefit for the people? Let's see here. They're going to run down his line. I'm going to reach out to Mr. Charlie Winburn when he makes his official announcement and see if we can get him to come on and talk about why he's running and what does this mean. Is this Charlie Winburn just trying to get back into the race? Do we need some fresh faces in the Republican Party? Well, there'll certainly be some fresh faces running as Republicans for city council. I've already heard about a couple of them. So we'll hopefully get a chance to talk with everybody. Cassandra writes, or it could just be he being open-minded, trying to understand how others identify or define their sexuality. You can be understanding or open-minded and not compromise who you are. It's my personal opinion. Well, Cassandra, I would like to believe that I'm open-minded. Like I said, you know, in terms of my own personal interaction, I know who I am. And I'm happy with that. In terms of other people, I let people live and be who they are. I try to judge people based upon my own personal interactions with them, how they interact with me, what I hear them say and do, you know, how they present themselves, rather than somebody's sexuality. Like I told you, some of the coolest people I ever met were gay, bisexual. Coolest people I ever met in my life. Just live and let live kind of people. And that's how I like to believe I am. Now, if you're asking me personally, that's different. And I think everybody has that on their own viewpoint about that. And again, I was saying this 25 years ago when it was less fashionable. It was funny because I teamed up with my homie Mason Jamal. We were working on a podcast. We started just kind of reminiscing like, damn, you know, people have come to accept a lot of things that we were advocating for 20 years ago. 20 years ago, people was calling and saying, you must be gay. Because that was the only way people could process what I was saying to you as a black man in my 20s saying that I don't give a damn about somebody's sexuality. So I'm consistent. You know, I have no problem with that. Now, this was back at a time when it was a big deal if you were gay. This is back when it was codified discrimination in Ohio that prevented same-sex couples from having the same rights as heterosexual couples. So, like I said, I'm pretty consistent on that because that's how I believe. I'm a live and let live kind of person. When I say that, you know, but again, like I said, you know, Fame wants to judge. He said, I wouldn't vote for some transgender person, some homosexual person. Look, I already made bad choices. Well, okay. How well have the heterosexuals done? Or the people that profess to be heterosexual, right? Because now we know a lot of people have been living in the closet because they can't be their authentic selves. I had black men and others would be trying to challenge me. You must be gay. You're always talking about this gay-ish. It's in mid-90s, late 90s. I'm like, man, if you don't stop tripping. Yes, same number. Iris Rowley's going to call in about 4 minutes, and she's going to give an update, tell us about an event that's happening here in the city of Cincinnati. So look for that. We'll chop it up a little bit. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with it, Cassandra, whatsoever. Like, I really mean that. I think it's people get caught up with the wrong stuff. You know, and then they want to project this into politics. And I think that's wrong. Pat writes, I saw an Andy Bashir commercial this morning, first time. Yep. Because a lot of these campaigns don't have a lot of money, so they're going to save it and give their best punch. I would not be surprised if you see Ben Lindy on TV. I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised. You know, he wants to be on the Cincinnati School Board really, really badly. And he's already making bread. He's already living in Hyde Park, so it's not a monetary thing. Why? Maybe it's because he just generally feels like he can have a positive impact on the school board. Okay. Or maybe it's something else. Don't know. Tracy writes, this must be a slow news day. I don't think so. I mean, to me, there really are never any slow news days. I haven't seen a slow news day in a long time. I'm talking about what people are talking about, things that are interesting, have caught my eye. And I'm always open. Again, you can send a link if there's something that you feel like we're missing. I want to check it out. Jesse writes, Nathan, I said the same thing. The airplane tripped me out. Tracy writes, don't sound so smug, Nathan. It is what it is. He should not have been fired. We need more smug sounding black men. We need more arrogant, confident black men in Cincinnati. And then 2, she writes, he should not have been fired. No, he should have been fired. Well, should he have been fired? That's open to interpretation. You know, if I was in that situation, would I have fired him? I feel like there's some information we just don't have. But if I come up with a policy that says that the staff can't use the N-word, that includes if students use the N-word with you. And hopefully that was communicated beforehand. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I think it probably was. Something tells me they probably covered this. But people got caught up in their feelings. They tried to make it into something that really wasn't, and he got his job back. I'm going to tell you. Okay, just getting a message from Clyde, too. Says he's available to call in this morning. See. All right. See. No, so should he have been fired? I mean, that's open to interpretation, as I said. I mean, at the very least, we can admit that he should have been reprimanded. Can you admit that, Tracy? That at the very least, he should have been reprimanded. Let's say he wasn't fired, he should be reprimanded. And if we can agree that he should have been reprimanded, then we all agree he did something wrong. You know, air quotes. By policy violation or whatever. And so if he did something wrong, that goes back to, I say, it's open to interpretation, because if he did something wrong and violated policy, it's up to whoever the administrator is to make that decision. They made a decision he should have been fired based upon whatever, you know, not assuming there wasn't some personal beef or anything like that. But I think one thing that we can agree on is that there are conditions to him coming back. And I'm telling you, one of those conditions is he can't use the N-word, even if the kids use the N-word. And if he does, he's going to be fired. He's going to be fired. We shall see. Sometimes when you have these little dust up with management, it leads to, you know, people like, they really don't give a damn about me. And quickly afterward, they leave. That's why I say in a year, I could see him out of there. But again, union, sure, he got 11 years in. Maybe they just put him in another school. He ain't leaving a job. He just leave the school. You can slap a kid and get your job back. You should not be able to slap a kid and get your job back. If you slap a kid, you should be going to jail. You should be having some court proceedings and then some civil recourses and things like that. If you're the resource officer, you can slap a kid, especially a black child, especially if the teacher says, oh, this kid's being, you know, unruly or whatever. I've seen that before. You can do that. But teachers, I don't know. I don't think teachers can do that. Let's go to the phone, shall we, and welcome in Iris. How you doing, Iris?
I'm doing very well, Mr. Ivy. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. Thank you so much for allowing us to call this morning. Of course, I have the wonderful, talented, brilliant strategist around reentry and all of the things that matters under that bucket on the line with me, Deanna Hoskins. But before we...
Hey, what's up, Deanna?
Not a thing. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to hear your voice. You know, we're Facebook friends, so I am watching everything that's going on. Congratulations. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
And we'll have to catch up one day, just the two of us, and catch up.
Yes.
So listen, Nathan, and before Deanna rolls, because she was just here in Cincinnati, and I want to say thank you again for her coming. She was at Jubilee Cincinnati. Folk missed her. But if you are on Facebook and you're on Twitter and you're interested in returning citizens and what they're doing across the country, because we lost a very, very powerful voice in Cincinnati. Deanna, when I met Deanna in Cincinnati, she was starting to build the Hamilton County Office of Reentry. And I kept saying to her, well, what is this about? And what I had to do, Nathan, was I literally followed Deanna as she was building the Reentry Coalition, as she was building the office, because at that time I was working for JRAB. And she wanted to make sure that everybody, one, understood that reentry was a process, not just a name, and that how you, too, are part of the solution, right, and what you could give and what you can do in your own little area. And I remember her coming in our office. I don't know if Deanna remembers it. She said, it's just me and a file cabinet. You remember that, Deanna? And,
yes.
And so it has been a powerful educational journey. And watching Deanna from the city of Cincinnati, our very own Deanna Hoskins, grow to whom she is today. So I'm extremely honored to not just call her an expert with a PhD in her own field and what she does, but a true dear friend. So Nathan, I'm calling this morning under the umbrella of the Cincinnati Economic Advancement Initiative. And what that is a non-for-profit community development corporation. And we started this corporation 3.5 years ago, and it was in response to the legislators asking Black people to do something about crime. As you know, we've done everything under the sun for many, many years, many decades. All of us, we've not done anything different. We just keep going in circles. So we determined at this juncture that it is time to go after the economics, and this is how we are attempting to do that. So public safety is one of our areas and concerns. Reentry, returning citizens, their families, their children are part of our community. And so we are honored to host and work with Deanna and her crew at Just Leadership, where she is president and CEO, my friend, president and CEO of a large nonprofit corporation. And we will be here to assist her as she moves forward in all of the efforts. And as you said, you follow her on Facebook, and it's phenomenal watching her across the country do the work. I wish she was here back with us, because it seems that we're not proficient in this area anymore. We don't hear anything about returning citizens and about reentry and all its possibilities and what our rights, roles, and responsibilities are in that. So I'm just honored to be able to host. I'm going to be quiet. Just everybody, please get your pencil and piece of paper together so you can take notes, because Deanna is going to educate us, and make sure that you know where you can go on Monday, October 28th, to view this live, powerful stream that Deanna and her crew has put together. Nathan Ivy and the rest of the choppers, Miss Deanna Hoskins.
Wow, thank you, Iris. So, Nathan, one of the things, as Iris talked about, I'm now president CEO of Just Leadership USA, which is a national organization that was founded on the principle that those closest to the problem are closest to the solution, but traditionally furthest from resource and power. We actually invest in the leadership of formerly incarcerated individuals so that they can drive the policy change that is needed that impacts the most marginalized and disadvantaged communities. We do that through our leadership training. We have a year-long training where we take leaders across the country through a very competitive process and select up to 20 people to go through this year-long training. And it's with a training consultant he trains within Fortune 500 companies. Another thing that we do is our advocacy component, where we advocate for different decarceration strategies, as our goal is to cut the correctional population in half by 2030. We have campaigns going on in Milwaukee to close what is known as MSDF, which is a probation and parole facility that houses nothing but probation and parole violators. In that facility, 65% of the individuals there are African American. 40% come from one specific zip code, which is the most impoverished zip code in Milwaukee. We have another campaign in Pennsylvania called Close the Creek, where the mayor has already depopulated and emptied out the building. We are now asking for the mayor to raise or repurpose that building, but also working again on probation and parole within that state, especially after the Meek Mill fiasco of someone being on probation for up to 10 years and still getting violated after 8 or 9 years. I don't know if you guys have heard, but historically we launched the Close Rikers campaign here in New York to close the most notorious jail in any large city. Rikers Island and the Barrow-based facilities had up to 14,000 bed jail capacity, and that is pre-trial, meaning individuals have not even been convicted of a crime. They are being held there. And at one time, New York housed up to 22,000 people in those facilities. We have done movies and documentaries on closed Rikers and the violence and the brutality. Correctional officers have been indicted within there. The union rep has actually been indicted. So we launched Close Rikers in 2016, asking for the city of New York and the mayor to close Rikers. The mayor agreed to close Rikers, but he said not till 2026. But there were some things that needed to be done once Rikers was closed, and we needed to update what we call the Barrow-based facilities. Those are smaller facilities in boroughs such as the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, and Manhattan. They were actually created for human warehousing. Some of them didn't even have air conditioning. And I don't know if over the winter you guys saw the rally where one of the heat went out in one of the buildings and people just didn't have heat, running water, and different things of that nature. So on October 17th, we made history when City Council in New York City voted 36-14 to close Rikers Island and build these smaller base facilities and take the cost savings and invest it in those communities that have been hardest hit by incarceration. What a lot of people didn't understand with the Close Rikers campaign, one of the biggest complaints was to house a person on Rikers Island in New York City cost the city taxpayers $300,000 a year. You can give a person a Harvard education for that amount. So there's almost a $2.1 billion savings that is going to come forth once these community-based facilities are erected and people are closer to the courthouse. We don't have to do transportation. People are closer to their families. They actually have their attorneys who are able to see them because attorneys did not even go to Rikers Island. But there were some laws in New York that kind of shook me when I got here coming from Cincinnati, realizing I thought our system was chaotic in the way it operated, only to get to New York and find out they were centuries behind the times. The reason Khalif Broder spent 3 years on Rikers Island because they had no time frame on their discovery, and Khalif refused to take a plea deal, and he was taking his case to trial. I'm used to Ohio, to Hamilton County. Even if you take a case to trial, within a year, that trial is complete. So we're talking about someone who sat on Rikers Island for 3 years and never made it to the first day of the trial because in New York, they had a discovery deal that was related to the mafia back in the day. They could not give your attorney the information of the evidence and the witnesses they had on the case because witnesses were coming up killed. So your attorney didn't even have access to the evidence against you until 48 hours before the trial. How do you get proper representation? So, of course, in New York City, plea deals run rapid. We have people serving time where prosecutors probably really didn't even have evidence against them, but because they weren't willing to sit in Rikers Island for 3 or 4 years to try to get the trial, they plea bargained just to get out of that hellhole. So we're going to build these smaller community-based facilities, and I've been really pushing for facilities that look like River City Correctional in Hamilton County, where they are pre-trial, but they have education, workforce development training. There's actually going to be community space that they will become an asset to the community, not just a jail. We're even fixing the design that if we continue to drive down the population in New York City, that they won't have to be tore down if they ever have to be closed because they're not used. They can be converted into condos or different things of that nature that it won't take deconstructing the whole infrastructure. But another win that we had in New York State was we eliminated bail. Beginning January 1st, 2020, in New York State, anyone arrested for a misdemeanor or a low-level felony, a judge cannot ask for cash bail. We believe the presumption of innocence needs to be maintained and people should not have to pay for their freedom, which the most impoverished can never get out of jail on bail. Again, i.e. Khalif Broder, his family could not come up with $1,000 to get him out on bail. So he languished for 3 years. So one of the things that I talk about is, as directly impacted people, That has been the success of these advocacies. They have been led by people who survived Rikers. They have a slogan in my office that they survived Rikers, but Rikers didn't survive them. This campaign is totally led in every state that I am in, that we are in, is led by those most marginalized by the system and their families. So we've been making history across the country, but we're taking another step nationally. On October 28th, we are hosting the first ever presidential town hall meeting held by formerly incarcerated individuals. We are a group of formerly incarcerated individuals who are hosting the town hall, but the only people in the room is formerly incarcerated individuals, and it's going to be held at the historic Eastern State Prison. I don't know if everyone knows, but Eastern State Penitentiary, at one time before it was shuttered, was the most expensive and largest jail in any urban city. It is now a museum, so we're using that as a backdrop. We have partnered with Now This Media to live stream the event, but presidential candidates have never talked to us. All of the candidates have put out criminal justice reform platforms, but they have not come to talk to the leaders in this area. You don't create platforms around veterans without them going to talk to vets. They've even created a platform around LGBTQ to find out their needs, but they never come and talk to the people most marginalized by the criminal justice system, which typically, as we know, is African Americans and Latinos. So how dare you put out a platform about our lives, of how you're going to fix our lives, without coming to talk to us to ask us what needs to be fixed? So we have commitments for 4 of the presidential candidates at this time. We're still in conversation with Castro and Beto about coming. We've actually put the pressure on, and we've asked other people to put the pressure on because, again, how do you run for the highest office in this country and the most marginalized people are not even on your radar to talk to? And I'm going to be honest, Nate, we've kind of started throwing our weight around. We haven't realized our power. One of our advisory board members is Desmond Meade, who actually led the Florida Amendment 4 to restore the voting rights to 1.4 people who had felony convictions and who did not have the right to vote in Florida. They restored their voting rights. And even with the legislators putting in a poll tax saying, well, they have to have paid all their court fines, a federal judge knocked that down and said you cannot do that. That is a poll tax. But even if that would have went through, there was still 800,000 of those people who got the right to vote given to them that didn't fall up under that category. So we started crunching numbers, and what we realized was no president ever took the White House without taking Florida. The only gap difference is 100,000 votes, and if we just restored 800,000 votes who are eligible to vote, even with legislators trying to put in a poll tax, we started to realize we could fill the gap. If it's 100,000 for the highest office, 65,000 for governor, 30,000 for the mayor, and you have 70 million people across this country with criminal convictions who all have at least one loved one who will vote with them, that's half the country. We don't know our power, and we've never organized our power. So this group, Voters Organized to Educate, is about establishing and understanding our power in the community. So we're not just dropping the mic on this presidential town hall. February 1, 2020, we are launching a national voter education and awareness campaign across the country to go into communities that have the highest incarceration in each state and start educating the community and registering people to vote, but also providing people with toolkits to understand that every jail across this country, those individuals sitting in your local jail have a right to vote. And even if the sheriff don't let you in, we will file lawsuits because they are actually denying that person their constitutional right to vote because they have not been convicted of a crime. They are there pre-trial. So you have all this voter disenfranchisement, and we have pinpoints and pressure points that we can actually be activated and engaged to actually show our weight in this actually election. We were the ones who got Larry Krasner in Philly. We got Kim Foxx in Chicago. Hopefully we're going to flip Hamilton County as well. but we have to be willing and understand. Community has to understand the engagement point and the fact of it's just not the presidential voting that we need to show up for. We can control the local politics, which filter up to the federal politics, because those individuals who represent us come from our local area and they are voted on. And when we don't vote, we are saying it's okay for certain people to represent us on that federal level that actually holds the president accountable. I'm going to stop there and see if there's any questions you have, Nate. I know that was a mouthful.
Wow. Well, I'll just say, number one, thank you for your work. It seems I agree with everything you said, and it's very, very timely. This is the time. But one thought I did have, which is away from the work, was the last time we talked, we were just going into Trump coming into office. We haven't talked since then. So can you catch us
Right.
up? What happened between then and now? You're the president and CEO of Just Leadership USA.
So, of course, as you know, I went into the Department of Justice in a leadership position up under the Obama administration. And I need to tell you, it was just like any corporation. When you're president, your attorney general, your assistant attorney general, then your supervisor down to you, you're 5 levels down from the president, but you're all on the same page. You're all on the same page about making sure barriers that are coming out of the federal government that create obstacles for people with criminal backgrounds to engage are being eliminated. We were able to start the Pell pilot project, which the 94 crime bill had taken college education eligibility outside of prison, pulled it out. Individuals in prison were no longer eligible. We started the pilot project. We were able to actually make sure that HUD housing rules for people with criminal backgrounds were understood on a local level, that the federal government does not bar people with criminal convictions. They only mandate that 2 types of criminal convictions are barred from public housing. And that's a lifetime sex offender who has to register for life, and a person who was manufacturing methamphetamine while living in public housing. All the other rules were locally implemented, which means they can be locally overturned, which we had some success when I was in Cincinnati, working with Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing. So it was, it was kind of, I was in my play yard, because I'm all about breaking down barriers, about being a liaison to the community to make sure those barriers are removed, understanding that child support, the federal rule is that if you convicted to prison, your child support can be dropped to 0 while you serve your time, so you don't come out with that debt. We again started that process in Hamilton County and set up a process in the office at that time to work with child support of everyone who got sent to prison that day by the judge. Our team would go over to the Justice Center and have them sign the paper so that their child support didn't accrue while they went and did 10 years and then come home to this insurmountable debt. We even were able, with the Obama administration, to do some backdoor stuff where those who had already served time, who had child support warrants and was being arrested, we were able to work with Hamilton County juvenile magistrates to recall those warrants so you weren't being released after serving 10 years and getting handcuffed and arrested and back in Hamilton County again. So being that liaison was really in my lane. And when the administration changed, the whole concept changed. And 2 things happened. Being the representative who was appointed by Attorney Loretta Lynch as the Deputy Director of the Reentry Council, I was the point person for the White House on second chance corrections and reentry. And I remember sitting in a meeting updating the current administration on activities that had taken place. And the guy who was going to run what's called National Institute of Justice, which is the data collection arm of the Department of Justice, basically said second chances don't work. We're expending $85 million out into the field, and we're not having the results we need to have. So, i.e., they started and pulled back out legislation that we started under the Obama administration, which became known as the First Step Act. Me and my office, my team, my supervisor, and some of the policy analysts, we reviewed the legislation and we gave them feedback of how this legislation was going to harm African Americans, just as the 94 crime bill did. And I remember the next meeting at the White House where I was told Trump needed a win. and he needed a win with the Black community. And I knew this legislation was not going to be a win for the Black community, that it was going to look like a cake on the outside, but it was going to taste terrible once we cracked into it. Because let's be honest, the 94 crime bill was a bipartisanship law at the time that everyone thought was going to solve the problem during the crack epidemic. i.e. First Step Act, the same thing. So I remember I left the meeting, and when I got back to my office, my boss came to my office laughing and said, my whole career, I never got a phone call from the White House saying somebody couldn't come back to the White House. So it was an honor to get put out of the White House because I was speaking my truth.
Props.
Of what I knew. So I sat in a meeting later on, and Jared Kushner sent out a memo to the grant part that I oversaw, and the memo stated that all the language that had been rolled back under the Obama administration, we could no longer use in any communication coming out of federal government. We could not use the word inmate, ex-offender, convict in any of our language. They were giving us a directive to go back and reinstate that language. Not only did they give us the directive, they held up money leaving the federal government going to communities because I had not changed the language. So I asked my boss, I said, how do we push back? Because this is dehumanizing language. And if we're saying we're investing in people being thriving, we need to see them as people being the federal government and setting the example. And she told me we don't push back. We just flow with the role. And I realized at that time, I'm not the type of girl who flows with the role. I'm an advocate, and I advocate for change. And I was taking it personally because if you were saying that's how you looked at people who had been convicted of a crime, I was one of those people. So I could not work for an employer who do not value me as a human and who didn't see my human potential because they kept utilizing dehumanizing language when they referred to me in written and verbal communication. So I made a decision. This position came open. Some of the people that I networked with across the country called me. I didn't know, being an African-American woman leading a national organization, because let's be honest, it's hard to be Black in America, but it's actually harder to be a Black woman and to be in a leadership role and to be seen, because Black women have always been forgotten about. So I knew it was going to take me building a support group of other Black women across the country that I've built, some right out of Cincinnati, to support me to step into this role, because I was now saying that as a woman, I was going to represent the 70 million individuals who have been convicted of a felony. I was going to be their voice of righteousness no matter what. And it brought me to this position that I have. But I had to make a decision and understand what I was stepping into. And what I realized, Nate, is that there's a theory called psychosocial empowerment and psychopolitical empowerment. Psychosocial empowerment is where individuals give you the falsehood that they're empowering you, but it's to be okay with the status quo. So be okay with the fact that we discriminate against you based on job applications because you have a criminal conviction, that we use Jim Crow laws to say a felony conviction is now equivalent to being a slave and being Black. Psychopolitical empowerment is the arena where Martin Luther King and Malcolm X failed, where you're empowering and educating people that they have a different stance if they organize and they look at what their rights are. And that becomes a danger to people. So I had to really ask myself, am I really all in for this? Because this position and this organization can truly become a threat to the democracy and white supremacy that we know. We're saying we no longer are okay with white men representing us without understanding our community. And not only are we not okay with it, we're going to overthrow you in your positions by empowering our people to utilize their leverage, which is their voting right. We're going to push for policies. And if you don't push our policies, we actually are going to vote you out of office. And now we're starting to have receipts for that. So I had to realize, was I all in for this notion? And what I realized, I have nothing to lose but my shackles. You've already taken me to the lowest point of my life when you put me in a cage and incarcerated me. And now my sons are incarcerated. And there's something that clicks in a person when the system starts impacting their child in a very unfair way and putting them in cages and you watch the hopelessness leave your child's eyes of having a life because now they found themselves in a situation where another race of people would have gotten probation, but they were facing 33 years. It's just the discriminatory of the system, and we have to realize this criminal justice system was built on slavery. It evolved from slavery. It was just another way when the 13th Amendment abolished slavery for us to still be held captive and productive in the right of others. So you look at Angola Prison in New Orleans. It was a slave plantation, 463 acres of cotton that converted to a prison, and the people housed there still go out and work the land. Nothing's changed. They just put a fence around it instead of just having the trees where they shot us dead. They just put a fence around it. So I realized that that was my true calling, and I could not push back against this administration being an employee of that administration. The slave master is never going to give you the keys to dismantle his house. So I realized they were not going to continue to give me a paycheck, and I pushed back on everything they did. So when I left the federal government, the first thing I did was nationally partner with the USA Today paper, and I came out to voice my opinion about the First Step Act. While it is really good that it retroacted the crack to cocaine disparities that the administration didn't let Obama retroact, 3,300 people got out. I believe people should be out of cages. But what it didn't do, it didn't get rid of the disparity. Because you can retroact and let people out, but people are still being arrested and convicted on that same charge that are going to face that 18-to-1 disparity. Again, i.e. African Americans selling crack versus Caucasians selling cocaine. It instituted what is known as a risk assessment tool of who's eligible for early release programs in the federal system. One, the research says that those who are high risk to recidivate should have access to programs. They changed the rules and said low risk. Well, African Americans are never low risk simply because of how our communities are over-policed, how our schools have more police than school counselors. Our interaction with law enforcement occurs at a very young age, and those are the type of questions that give you score on a risk assessment tool. So we were automatically going to be scored out even having access to programming, which again is access to the resources and education that we need so that when we return to the community, we can be thriving, productive members of society. So that was the racial disparity that I came out against, that the crime that this First Step Act was going to have. It actually, people talked about the shackling of women when they're pregnant, that we shouldn't do that. No, we shouldn't. But this law did not create that. That was already a directive on the book. It just established it in law. There were some other things that the federal prosecutors couldn't do, where they could no longer stack cases against you. And I worked with the federal prosecutors, Ken Parker, right there in Cincinnati, and everyone said the federal prosecutors are in agreement. The federal prosecutors were in agreement because they had already stopped doing it. So they had already stopped practicing it in-house before you made it law. So this bill was more fluff and a waste of political power when we really could have had, if you were going to push the political power and the celebrityness of this, it could have been useful that really empowered and engaged African-American communities. So I realized I made the right decision by leaving, because had I not, there would have been no outside pressure for them to even go back and add the sentencing reform into the First Step Act, that we not put that outside pressure on.
Speaking with Deanna Hoskins, Deanna, I could listen to you talk all day. I could listen to you talk all day. You know, you have what I would call a superlative flow, but that was quite interesting. So it really went down just like that with the Trump administration. Like it was that night and day, that stark of a contrast.
Nate, I used the terms. I went into the federal government on a honeymoon, and I left because of a domestic violence situation. It just was turbulence. I didn't have that much time invested in the federal government as a career employee, but I saw people who had 20 years, 25 years taking early retirement. I still have some friends who are still there, and the department that ran the Department of Justice program In this 3 years, they have had 5 leaders. 5 leaders. There is no stability in the federal government. There's no stability in the programming and the people who are there because they were invested. They had 20, 25 years in, and they're like, Dan, I got too many years to leave, which I agree because that is like the ultimate job that anyone wants. I had to really consider it, but I knew I could always come back because of the status that I came in on and the work that I had produced while I was there. But had I had 20 or 25 years in, I would have had to sit through this misery that they are going through. They are always in uncertainty because they are always getting a new boss. As soon as they get a new leader and find the way that person operates, is this person focused on community building or is this person focused on law enforcement? Because that changes the dynamics of how you even manage the portfolio that you handle. If they're focused on law enforcement and you're going to focus on programs, all your funding is going to switch to law enforcement departments, such as Department of Corrections, police, for them to get more versus providing programs in the community, which those funds would go to like a Hamilton County Office of Reentry. So it's that type of dynamic shift and uncertainty. But it's funny because I came out against First Step Act, and of course they pushed it across with Van Jones. Me and him been in a tug of war. But now the White House is calling me because it's re-election time, and they realize, oh, we let all these people out of jail, and Deanna made a statement that you're letting people out, but people are getting out homeless. Jared had to call Walmart to get a person a job because we hadn't prepared any infrastructure in the community, and we hadn't dismantled the discriminatory practices from a federal level. So now they're texting saying, can we meet?
Wait,
we understand what you're talking about.
Wait, what? You said Jared had to call Walmart, as in Jared Kushner literally called Walmart to get somebody a job?
A friend. One of the women who was released under First Step Act could not get a job, and he had to make a call to corporate office and a friend to get her a job. Let's also talk about the fact that Matthew Charles, who I love dearly, who was released under First Step Act, was homeless. Kim Kardashian had to pay his rent for 5 years and use her celebrityness for him not to even get a high-profile apartment, but for someone to be willing to rent to him. So, and my question to them, so 600,000 people are released from prison across this country every year. Is Kim going to pay their rent? And if the answer is no, then what are we going to do systemically to make sure that 599,000 has the same opportunity to a basic human need? No one was talking about that. So there's a good friend of mine who actually just happens to be the senior advisor to the president over criminal justice, sent me a text and said, hey, can we meet? Are you willing to meet with us? And of course, I'm like, who is us? And he talked about Jared Kushner and them because they know reentry. But I'm not willing. And I'm not willing to be your proxy for the next movement to get you the black vote. You need to go back to the same advocates that pushed First Step Act and see if they can hold up. But what they're finding out, those are not the advocates with the power in the country who are formerly incarcerated. It's this group of voters organized to educate who are giving us pushback. And if we don't get them on board, we see the power of what they're doing.
Hey,
so, of
Nathan,
course,
I'm sorry, Nathan,
go ahead.
There's some great questions, and I know you want to catch up with Deanna, but I don't want people to be confused about why we advocate and fight so hard, not just for police reform, but for reform across the criminal justice system. And here's the connector. And when Deanna talks about the risk assessment tool, that was spoke about at your judicial forum the other night. And I said when I tweeted, we need to look at that form to see how problematic it is. You got some really good questions, and I'm sorry I'm jumping in, just as your sister and friend, but you got some really good questions that are going through the thread that I think folk need clarity on. And Deanna is the one that can give them the answers to those particular questions so we don't have those myths going around in our head and we're not connecting the dots from local to national and why you have to be very clear about what you're talking about and what people are pushing, because people were confused about the first step. Because I had to call Deanna because she's my expert. I had to call her and say, now this is being pushed, because people were asking local folk to sign up and support it. But I wanted to go back to the person that I knew who had been educating me and a lot of us around these reforms. Does this make sense? And if it doesn't, tell me why it does not, and then what should we be pushing for? So if you could get to some of those questions, Nathan, that you got going in your thread.
So
I don't want people to.
What questions stood out to you?
So there's one from Bunky about African Americans. There's one about who from the presidential candidates will be at this town hall on Monday, who has declined to show up for the formerly incarcerated and their families and children. So there's some good questions in there. Yes, sir.
I saw those questions, Iris. I got this. I appreciate that, though.
Okay.
I got this. Let me do this. This is what I do. I got it.
That's right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And of course, Bunky, I did see that question, man, and that was the very next question I was come to. But I appreciate it. She just wants to make sure we get that substance out. But we definitely are. Do you have how much time do you have, Deanna? I'm not trying to take too much of your time. I know you're a very busy woman.
I'm working from home today, and my next call is not till 11.
Okay, great. Okay, so we got time. But I did want to make sure I'm not sure where you were in that conversation. You were talking about what had happened. I'm not even sure we can get back to it now.
Well, just the fact that they are starting to reach out to us because they know another election is coming up, and that with the restoration of the Florida Amendment 4, that is not looking good for them in Florida. So they want to have a conversation about reentry. And the bottom line is, I'm not willing to step back into the White House after you put me out. So I kind of gave them my address up in East Harlem in the hood, where they could come see us if they want to talk to us and talk to the people most marginalized. What I shared with Jerron is that if you're going to build another build or another conversation piece, you need to talk to the people most impacted. And right now, I have individuals who just came home after serving 27 years, 25 years. Those are the people you need to be talking to about what reentry looks like, what is the process that needs to be put in place. But what we're not going to do is allow to become a photo op inside a White House to say you have the African-American vote and you have one of the nation's criminal justice reform advocacy groups sitting at the table with you, because we're not willing to sit at the table with you. We're building our own table, and we'll invite you to our table.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I think that's the message for every black voter, every black person throughout the country. They should be doing that locally, regionally, and trying to have an impact. But she did mention Bunky. I do want to go to Bunky's question. He wants to know which Democratic candidate will specifically create policy for Black Americans in this area. Because you had mentioned, I want you to talk more about the upcoming forum so people can tune in and be aware of it. But of the Democrat candidates, in terms of reentry, the type of programs that you advocate for us, could you rank the candidates? Is there one candidate that stands out in terms of your interaction so far?
So I'm happy you asked. That's a very good question. So as we know, all the candidates have dropped a criminal justice platform. And to be considered as the top 10 to make the Democratic debate, you have to raise so much money, have so many contributions. So as we were putting this out, of course, Harris was the first one to sign on. Cory Booker came behind. Bernie Sanders wanted the video conference in, and we kind of went back to his camp and said, we know his health issues, but we're watching him trot across the country to these rallies and everything. And if we're not that important enough for him to come sit in a room with us, we're going to decline his offer to video in. So Sanders has refused us. Elizabeth Warren, to be the top runner and to be courting a Black man as her vice president, has turned us down twice. Biden won't even give us a conversation. So what they're saying to us is that the Black community doesn't matter to them. And especially with Biden being the author of the 94 crime bill, which has put us in this criminal justice crisis that we are in at this time, how dare you not come talk to us? But there's a candidate that his name is Seth Sato. He's a Democrat. He hasn't made the cut with raising the money. And when I went to he reached out to us and said, how do I become a part of this? So he's a legislator in Pennsylvania. We went and looked at his platform. He is the only candidate who has written a racial justice platform that includes criminal justice. He's a veteran. And what he realized was that his comrades that he had been in the military with were being incarcerated only to understand PTSD. So he started visiting prisons. He outlined the issues that we have, and I told my team, either he has a really good writer who understands our issues, or he truly gets what we're talking about. So he didn't address this and say, here's my criminal justice platform. He addressed this and said, here's my racial justice platform that is inclusive of criminal justice. So it's amazing to me that we have these front runners. And what I realized when I started being educated on this process of how politicians run for office, I realized people who are already in office get to start raising money in a kitty if they ever decide to run for office. So you can be a state senator for 10 years and already have a bank account that is collecting money that if you decide you're going to run for president in 10 years, you got a head start. So what we realized was, do we deny this man who's not making the Democratic debate stage the opportunity to speak to the most marginalized community when he's the only one who's actually put out a detailed plan that addresses the racial injustices that is inclusive of criminal justice, education, housing, because he can't raise the money? And what one of my colleagues brought up to me, they said, how dare we be a marginalized population and we're going to endorse the marginalization of a candidate? So when we looked at it, we realized, Nathan, that running for office almost forces you to become a slave to the NRA and all these other associations who dump money, because that's the only way you're going to make the top stage to even be seen by the country. So the NRA and all these associations we're trying to dismantle, of course they have a hold on the politicians, because we have a democracy that's set up that they have to be relying on them to even be considered a top runner. This guy is an underdog because he refuses to take corporation money. But I actually think he's an underdog that if we give him the opportunity to have this platform, it may change the dynamics of the game. Remember, Obama was an underdog as well.
Speaking with Deanna Hoskins, wow, that's interesting. Somebody wanted to know, what about the Republicans? Like you told us that the Trump administration had reached out to you, but throughout the country in these various states where you're having an impact, how do Republican elected officials react to your platform?
So the Republicans, just like Trump, they know that they have to start talking criminal justice. So what happened with First Step Act, they sent a wave of what we call softball criminal justice reform. So you have states who have Republican governors picking up the momentum, which traditionally happens in a Republican, when you have a Republican president. I'm going to go back to the 94 crime bill. Although it was pushed and signed by Clinton, but traditionally governors pick up and roll with it. So we know the 94 crime bill incentivized states to build prisons if they changed their truth in sentencing laws, which expanded our state level laws around our criminal justice. And we saw prisons being built in various states. So of course, they're all talking criminal justice, but they're talking the same softball that the federal government. They're instituting risk assessment tools. They're talking about releasing people to GPS monitoring. Well, here's the key about electronic monitoring. People say, Deanna, you're not going to be satisfied with anything. Well, no, the reality of it is I can put a monitor on your leg, and that reduces the cost to the state of corrections because you're no longer in a brick and mortar. You're in your community. But you're in your community and your house just became your cell. So, Nathan, if I'm your sister and I'm released to GPS monitoring, you just turned over all rights of privacy to your house. When the police show up or my PO show up, they can search your house like they used to search my cell without your permission. So we are going from turning our communities into electronic prisons and making our family members the wardens, because our family now has to be careful of what they do in the privacy of their own home because they gave a family member a place to live. And that may work out in Indian Hills. There may be one or two people in Indian Hills on GPS monitoring. But let's be honest, and over the Rhine, it's going to be 15 of us, which is going to increase the police presence and different things of that nature. So when you talk about states doing criminal justice reform, we have to be careful of what we're doing in the name of reform. Because let's be honest, when you say you're reforming something, that means you're fixing something. The criminal justice system is not broken. It's operating the way it's supposed to. We have to reimagine what criminal justice looks like. If we're reforming it, we're just trying to actually tinker with something that's already broken to keep it broken.
Great flows with Deanna Hoskins. So tell us about the upcoming presidential forum. And just to clarify, you said that the one presidential candidate, Democrat candidate, that had a real racial justice plan was Beto O'Rourke. Is that correct?
No, I did not say that.
Okay, it wasn't Beto. Okay, it was somebody else.
Let me, I'm just pulling up my email really quick to give you his name because I always can't pronounce his name right. He's an independent candidate. He reached out to us. His name is Joe Sestak, Sestak. I suggest everyone go to his website and look at his racial justice platform, and you'll find criminal justice and all of our issues embedded in there. And again, learning this process. If you have a candidate that you like, they have to get 130,000 donations. You can donate $1, but your donation counts as an individual. So if there's a candidate you want to see on a Democratic stage, go to their website and donate $1, $5, so that they can start having the donations that they need to actually be on the main stage with the Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, who actually, it's the telltale that the first two candidates to sign up for this town hall were the Black candidates. And this guy reached out to us to say, how do I get on this stage? And everybody else has been giving us the runaround. So we do have 4 candidates. We're definitely letting him in. When someone says they want to talk to you, we're not going to shut the door, especially when the system has marginalized them, just as we're saying we are. But also, we're doing pressure videos. Again, Elizabeth Warren's the fourth runner, Bernie Sanders. You're picking up momentum. You're having these rallies, but you're not willing to say we're important enough to sit down with. And right now, this town hall is the only town hall that's being done that is representing the African-American community. I know the Black faith leaders has done something as well, but this is historically, faith leaders have always had town hall meetings and presidential candidates always go talk to faith leaders. But do they want to talk to the most marginalized and disadvantaged communities across this country? And most of the front runners, especially Warren and Biden, have refused.
What's the date again?
October 28th is going to be live streamed. People can go to our website, Voters Organized to Educate, to register. In Cincinnati, they're hosting a watch party at the summit with Iris and the organization there. We're asking other people, get some of your friends together, register to have a watch party. This is the first time in history. And even at the watch party, we're having people register so that we can kind of shout you out that you're hosting a watch party in between our candidates. We're actually letting people send us questions that we're going to pick some of the questions from people across the country around this criminal justice platform. This is our time. This is our day. And we need to be heard and visualized to let the country know we do matter, our votes matter, and we're going to be heard.
Wow, that is so powerful. That is so powerful. So how do you think it will end? Do you think that you'll have some 11th hour candidates that come in and try to be a part of it?
I really do, because Beto refuses to say no. You know, we keep sitting just say yes or no, and they're like, we're trying to work it out. Klobuchar, she actually asked for time slots in the last email yesterday, so I know she's probably going to come on board. But I'm really looking, there's an event in South Carolina that all the Democrats were going to, and then we just found out 2 days ago that the organizer didn't tell everybody, but they invited Trump to do the keynote. So I'm interested to see what candidates are willing to sit on the stage with Trump, but not come talk to voters on that day. So I want to see what candidates back out of that event once they find out Trump is the keynote and they're going to have to sit on stage with him.
How devastating was those 90 era crime bills to our community?
Oh my God.
How much
So
blood
the
does Joe
94
Biden have
crime
in his
bill-
hands?
So the 94 crime bill did a lot of things. One, again, it incentivized the states to build prisons. The federal government gave states money to build prisons if they increased their truth in sentencing, which meant that's why in Ohio, people were doing 95 to 100% of their sentence. You got the good days taken off for educational opportunities. It stripped out the Pell Grant outside of prisons. But part of that, there was a clause in there called the Anti-Terrorism Act. And they pulled that clause out and created a 96 crime bill, which actually started creating that truth in sentencing even more, which gave us some of the gang recognition that we started getting charged as gangs. It actually created the bill that said when you're incarcerated, you cannot sue your state based on conditions of confinement. So when people hear about prison riots across the country and they're like, well, what do they want? Why are they being so harmful and dangerous? That is the only way they can voice conditions of confinement. When you always ask, when they report, here are their demands, the top demand is the conditions in which they are being kept, the lack of, the food, the medical, the education, the opportunity, the visits. Because this 96 bill that rolled off of the 94 bill removed their right to sue a state based on conditions of confinement. So that's why it's okay when the heat goes out in the jail in the middle of the winter and the people there can't do anything about it. So we become their only voice on the outside because there's a federal bill that prevents them, but it was disguised as an anti-terrorism clause. And people are like, yeah, if you're a terrorist, you shouldn't be worried about how you're being held. Well, no, it played out to our people, and we're starting to see it. Rikers was an example of that. Deployable situations. When I walked in Rikers and having worked in a correctional facility, I literally thought that the majority of those cells were what we call offline, meaning they're not being operated because paint was chipping, it was graffiti on the wall, it was trash in the yard. I had never seen a prison look like that. And they basically told me, no, this is totally operable. And I remember there was water running in the day room in the sink. And I asked the guy, why did y'all have the water running? And he said, you have to run the water in the sink in the day room in order to get hot water in the shower to take a shower. So, but they have no way. So when you look at this 94 crime bill, it is, again, it incentivized the states. That's when we started getting life sentences for selling crack cocaine. People were being moved to the federal level on their charges. Even when we did the disparity in crack to cocaine, on the federal level, we took it down to 18-1, where it was actually almost 80-1. The states did not follow. We did not push for state governors to overturn those sentences of nonviolence where people were serving time. But we also, part of what the 94 crime bill did, it created this violent nonviolence. And it's called the Serious Violent Offender Act. And where it said if you committed a homicide or a manslaughter, this exorbitant amount of time that you got, that even in criminal justice reform today, it's real easy for people to say, okay, we'll do that for the nonviolent people. Well, let's be honest, Nate. If we're honest about the drug game, a gun and crack went together. You know, I remember when I was working for Serve in Cincinnati, and we would always say, put down the guns. And the guys would say, Miss Deanna, that's fine. You're telling me to put down my gun. But the problem is, ain't nobody else hearing you, so they still got their gun, and I'm not going to be caught without mine. It goes together. So when our young men in the hood get arrested with a gun, whatever charge they had just became violent because of the gun. And we're not taking, and they didn't have to shoot anyone. They didn't have to brandish it. The fact that they had a gun up under the seat of the car when they were stopped and they had drugs, they got aggravated trafficking, which just made that a violent trafficking charge. So they were getting sentences of 20 years. And now in criminal justice reform, those are the guys we're leaving behind. So when people tell you this is going to fix the 94 crime bill, there's always a part in a bill that says exclusion. If you look at the exclusion list, it's traditionally the charges that happen in the hood that are excluded. aggravated trafficking with a weapon, weapons up under disability. Those are all the charges that we get in our community. So what happens with any criminal justice reform? We continue to be excluded from being eligible for those early release programs.
Very interesting. Somebody wants to know, it's a lot of questions here. Someone says that, so will inmates have an opportunity to ask questions? So what'll be the format of the town hall again? Who will be asking the question? Who will be in the room?
So first off, I want to actually address the word inmate. I'm going to ask that really when we talk about language, these are still people. These are still human beings. They're just in a confined state. They still should not be treated as such. When we put dehumanizing language and labels on people, we treat them as such. So I just want to kind of bring that up, that we have to start role modeling the example of language. But we could not, we were trying to live stream into 2 prisons. They would not let us do the feed. The original location of this town hall was Angola Prison. The governor and the warden gave us permission to get in, but the proximity from the airport to Angola was 4 hours. And we knew we could not take 8 hours out of a candidate's day just to travel to a prison to have individuals active. So we will not have individuals who are currently incarcerated in the room, because we realize the difficulty that we would have woke up on the 28th, and if an incident happened at that prison and that prison went on shutdown, our whole event would have been shut down. So we couldn't take the chances of that. So for this event, people currently incarcerated will not be in the room or live stream. I know there's one, New York State is still trying to work with us to get a live stream into Sing Sing Prison, because we've done a lot of work with them and we're hoping we can pull that off. But in the room are all formerly incarcerated individuals. We made sure we had individuals who were sentenced as juveniles to life before the Constitution overturned it, that it is unconstitutional to give anyone under the age of 18 life without parole. So we have, especially in Philadelphia, they were the largest state that gave the most amount of juveniles life without parole. So there's an abundance of individuals who served amount 20 to 30 years when they went to prison at 15, 16 years old. They're going to be in the room. We have children of incarcerated parents who is now becoming a movement. Some of the organizations are echoes of incarceration. We Got Us Now, Scholar Chips. They're going to be in the room, be represented, and we're asking them for their questions about, their issues that they have. We actually have women who've given birth. Actually, Kimba is one of our graduates of Just Leadership USA. She's going to give a TED Talk. A lot of people know Kimba was the poster child of criminal justice before this conversation, and she got caught up in the 94 crime bill, being the significant other of a drug dealer who was ultimately murdered before he went to trial, and the federal government still gave Kimba 24 years, and she served 8 years before she was pardoned by Clinton, and she gave birth in prison as well. So Kimba's in the room. Chef Jeff Henderson, we all know his story, became a known chef, learned his skills in prison after serving a 10-year sentence for drug trafficking and manufacturing. So the only people who are asking questions are those most impacted, and the room is inclusive of all formerly incarcerated and directly impacted individuals. And of course, some of our supporters, some of our major funders, such as Arts for Justice out of the Ford Foundation, Forward Us, which is an entity of Twitter, those individuals who supported us and helped us fiscally pull this off.
Well, Deanna, listen, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. And I want to run through all these questions here. The only thing I didn't get a chance to is someone wanted to know, there's this, so what happened? How would you, if you had to give a grade, just real quick, if you had to give a grade to what Obama did in terms of criminal justice reform, from your vantage point, how would you grade that? How would you grade the Obama administration?
Actually, and I'm not saying this because he's an African-American man. I'll just say the fact that our issues rose to the top, the highest office, and was being addressed, I would actually have to give him a C. And the only reason I'm giving him a C is because his efforts were an A, but his impact was a C. And the impact was because of the legislators who had to approve it, who roadblocked him. So you can push some things, but if they don't push it through or it doesn't become their issue, they're not going to push it through. So his impact, B plus or C, but his efforts were A because They wanted to go wide and far and deep, but we knew we couldn't. So it's kind of like a pie. You set the pie in front of a person. If you ask them to eat the whole thing, it's overwhelming. So we realized we just had to spoon feed people and give them a slice at a time. And of course, 8 years ran out before they got to eat the whole pie.
I get it. Deanna, thank you so much. I'm definitely going to, broadcast the live stream, on our network with Sin Digital Media and partner up with you with that. And I will let's stay in contact. I'm not sure if Iris is still on the line.
Let's catch up.
Absolutely. But I appreciate it. Wow. I could listen to you talk for another 30 minutes, but I won't. I'll just say have a great day. And thank you so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. And again, the town hall is when again? And how can people who want to link?
October 28th, you can go to our website, Voters Organized to Educate, to register to get a unique link so that you can watch it at home with your friends, host a watch party. And of course, the organization Iris is with is going to host a live town hall meeting of the live stream at the summit as well. So we're asking churches, in schools, anyone, like you said, your organization, your media service, actually to stream it and just have watch parties so we can get as many eyes on this as we can, because I don't see this as the last one. I see this just the starting and the beginning.
Nathan, may I say something before
Sure.
you hang up? I'm asking your permission this time.
Sure.
And you're so very welcome for the connection. But the reason that this is important to CEAI, where Damon Lynch III is president and Cinnamon Paley is our COO, because we started this whole conversation, we only just stood on our shoulders of our elders who pushed in Cincinnati around police reform. And as Deanna said, the system was designed to be what it is. So when we sued in federal court and we changed some laws and codified some things, there's still a lot of work to be done. So we're asking people to come out and join us at the live stream, so that we can connect the dots from prison back to your streets and your legislators. So we're not missing any steps, because it really does start with, guess who, Nathan? The police, the people that you pay, and then the people who write the laws to tell them to go out and enforce. So if they are not enforcing in an appropriate way or understanding the laws in the appropriate way, we got to check it there first and keep it going. So I am so grateful to the work that Deanna has done, not just here in the city of Cincinnati, Hamilton County, Indiana, but across the nation, across the world. Our dear sister is doing the work. We just need to be able to connect the dots and make sure that we bring it back home to fix what's needed locally. I don't know, Deanna, if you still have the numbers of the formerly incarcerated that are returning back into Hamilton County, but the number is huge. And so when Bunky asked a question about African Americans, we need to understand how we are overly policed and overly sentenced and overly not given treatment like all other non-African Americans. So I just wanted to please encourage people to come and join us on Monday. Bring someone with you so that they can ask the questions and we can feed them from Cincinnati and make the connections back here that we need to make, and hold your judiciaries accountable who are running for seats right now.
So really, to follow up on that, Iris, just the numbers when I left Hamilton County, there were up to 3,000 people that returned to Hamilton, 2,500 to 3,000 that returned every year from the state facilities. But don't forget the local justice center that cycles through 45,000 people a year, with 5,000 coming out on some sort of community supervision each year. So every year we're adding some 5,000 people just to community control, plus the 2,000. That's 7,000 people in Hamilton County that have some type of criminal justice interaction and returning to our community that year. And we have to focus on, is Hamilton County an accepting county, and removing the discriminatory practices around housing, education, or are we creating a system that actually crime becomes a survival mode in our county?
Yeah, there we go. Nathan, lastly, I just received and this is totally different subject, but I wanted to put that out there for the choppers. I just sent you a press statement from CAFA, the Cincinnati African American Firefighters Association, regarding their scorecard and Steve Magerly. So please read that to your choppers so they can be informed as well on that issue.
You emailed it to me?
Yes, sir. I sure did.
Okay. All right. I'll check it out now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep. Thank you so much. Thank you very much to Sister Iris for
Thank you,
linking that, and Deanna for your time. Both of you, I really appreciate it. Yeah,
I
Thank
hope to
you.
see all on Monday. If you don't join us at 1580 Summit Road, please get the link and watch it and send up questions. Talk to your family members. Talk to your children, especially the children, because they really do have some good ideas on how to fix things that are broken. We just are not listening.
All right. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. That was a fascinating call. Shout out to Sister Iris for that, and Sister Deanna for you know what? I'm just seeing text messages, so I wasn't able to see text messages when I was having that phone call. But I appreciate it. Man, that was great. That'll definitely be its own podcast. When you see it up, please share it with friends who may have missed it. Damn. Fascinating. Inspiring work. Inspiring. I'm looking for this right now. Hold on, let me check on. Looking for this thing from CAFA. I don't see it. Yeah, I don't have an email. I don't have an email from you, Iris. So let me see if I can jump online real quick and find it. So you said they put out a scorecard on Meagerly, huh? I wonder what they say. It's going to be interesting. I wonder what they have to say. Okay. No, I still don't have anything here. But let me go back to your chat. So what did you think about that conversation with Deanna? I thought it was fascinating. Somebody was born with the gift of gab. And, very vivid. I can understand everything she was saying and was able to follow along. Very interesting. So I'll definitely be broadcasting it. And if not, join it live here over at the Summit on Monday. It'll be very interesting. Let's see what they have to say. What do you think? Man, it's 10:39. I've got to make a move. I got a couple things to do today. I want to make sure I have enough time to get there. Remember, getting there early is when you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. I learned that a very valuable lesson within the last week and a half, further reminding me. So I want to make sure I have enough time to do what I need to do. And I'll just let this marinate and let this sit for what it is. Please share this show with people you think might be interested in it. I thought it was fascinating. And again, I have not got a chance to speak with Deanna. I know she was in town. I missed her. But fascinating work. And I'm going to be it'll be interesting to see. Pat writes, reschedule with Clyde. Okay, let me see here. Because I did tell Clyde sometime after 10. Did he put it out there? Let me see. No, he didn't put anything out there. He said, just text me and tell me what time to call. I mean, we got time. Are you available now? I mean, we can talk to Clyde. I mean, why we got to go? I mean, Drop's retired. So we got time, right? Hey, Drop, did you hear when Deanna said that she said I thought that was a perfect way of putting it, as I understand it. It perfectly illustrated what happened. She said overall a C. Why? She said his effort was an A. These issues rose to the top, but it was the legislators. Like I told you, Obama only had the House of Representatives on his side for 2 years. 2010 Tea Party revolution, the Republican Party came over and they decided that they weren't going to do anything. Remember, it was historic. It was the most do-nothing Congress. The Obama years, when the Republicans had a majority in the House of Representatives, was the most do-nothingest, as the term is popular, meaning they didn't really pass any substantial bills or anything. Because as Mitch McConnell said on the night of the election, my job is to make Obama a one-term president. So they stopped working with him. And it further illustrated just how important those midterm elections are. Black folks fell asleep, unfortunately. And traditional midterm election voters, those voters are older and white, more conservatives. They voted in that Tea Party revolution, man. the corporate backers, and we found out that it was an organization that the Tea Party was basically backed by these big, well, it was backed by political America, corporate America, that was looking to get something out of it. To stonewall Obama's efforts to protect consumers, or to stonewall Obama's efforts to, redistribute wealth. And that's what happened. And who would know better than somebody who was actually there? Like I said, the last time we talked, Trump had been elected, and he just hadn't taken office yet. It was in that little sweet spot, if you want to call it that, or the death march, however you want to look at it, in between the election and then when you have the inauguration, when the president is basically a lame duck, and you've got like 3 months until the new administration is going to be sworn in. We spoke to Deanna last during that time frame, but I'm just so glad. Shout out to Iris again. So glad we had that conversation. I'm so glad we got a chance to catch up with her. I just sent a message to Clyde Bennett. I'd love to catch up with him. Just real quick. I'm not saying, I don't think it'll be a long conversation. I don't know. Maybe so. But we got time. We in charge. We can do what we want to do. Was on Rice. Come on, y'all acting like the Lakers. Okay, I think I'm going way, 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 way back to the conversation. We'll see. He might be young. He's a very busy man. He might be on to the next thing. That was a great conversation. She said, did you get it? Send it through. Okay, I just got it. Got it. Okay, this is CAFA. This is the Cincinnati African American Firefighters Association. Here is their statement. The Cincinnati African American Fire Association strongly condemns Stephen Meagerly, candidates for the Cincinnati Public School Board, for his false claim that we supported or endorsed him as a candidate for the CPS board. Oh, is he doing that? The use of our copyrighted logo on his website and Facebook page is a diabolical attempt to use race to sow confusion in the 2019 CPS board elections. This malicious attempt to use CAFA to interfere in the 2019 elections will not be tolerated. We demand that candidate Meagerly immediately remove any of his campaign media platforms, CAFA's copyrighted logo, also cease and desist any statements about our endorsement or support. What CAFA seeks is action. A questionnaire was created to determine the candidate's support for the Public Safety Academy, which I support, to restart a process that is stagnant. In 2018, 80,000 Cincinnatians overwhelmingly voted to award points to students who graduated from PSA. From the PSA, it's the Public Safety Academy. Creation of the PSA, okay, they pushing their issue. Props to those brothers, man. Props to them. Let me see here. A questionnaire, they say, we demand that candidate Meagerly, see, told you this Meagerly guy was full of ish. I told you. Tried to tell you. People out there making excuses. He got a plan for the teachers. Well, I mean, it's a lot of people with plans for the teachers. If they don't, maybe it's something they can adopt. It doesn't mean that this was the guy that should be elected to the Cincinnati School Board. And the term the way I looked at him on the school board is a bull in a china shop. Now, I talked with Stephen, and when you listen to what he has to say in terms of his critical assessment of Cincinnati Public Schools, there's nothing that he says is wrong. There's nothing that he said is wrong at all. But we already know that, B. You're not going to get points for telling me that I know you and I, we both see this as the problem is the same way. The issue is, how do we get from the problem to the solution? And I don't know. I don't know. If you can talk to some people that was down in City Hall, and I have, and again, you could say that's partisan. Maybe it's partisan, but I just haven't heard a lot of good things about the guy. And we'll have to wait and see. Maybe the school board, maybe the citizens will decide to put him on the school board, and he'll get on the school board, and he'll do a great thing. Or maybe, this kind of stuff with CAFA, with him like using their logo and trying to, I'm not sure what they mean by that. Was he trying to represent that they endorsed him? Now, that would be wrong. That would be wrong. I think that would be disrespectful. Oh, yeah, we got that CAFA endorsement. No, you didn't. Now, why are you lying about it? Because when I pressed him, he had no connection with the black community outside of working for Jeff Pastor. None. And again, I give him credit for his plans. We need people that's going to focus on our issues. And if you look at CPS, they overwhelmingly are serving African-American students. So it just makes sense to look at it through a racial lens. It just makes sense. And, Steve is a very smart guy. I could tell that. That's not the first time I've seen Steve. See, he's forgotten. When I went to that party, I told you, when I went to that Jeff Pastor party, shout out to Councilman Pastor, it was the night of the election. John from Princeton, New Jersey was with me. Steve was there. Steve was there, and he's right. It wasn't a Make America Great hat again. He's right. It was a red cap, though. You know. And that's when I could see who was really controlling scenes with the Pastor campaign. I was right there. I saw it with my own eyes. I was reading it. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing really mean, you get paid to run a campaign, you run a campaign. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't infer anything negative whatsoever. I'm just telling you. So now all this stuff is coming out about this guy. Again, if you've got authentic relationships with black folks, you don't have to use black people with props. If you have respect for other minorities, you wouldn't be doing that anyway. The whole thing that happened in the past, that's not really per se my issue. Again, like I told you, if you're an LGBTQ student or you're the parent of an LGBTQ student, then I think you should know, what the nature of Steve's crime that has been expunged. I didn't hear the interview with Lincoln, so I don't have any other reference point. I know Lawrence got a chance to interview him, but I didn't get a chance to see it. I'm trying to think. I did see a little bit here or there from some school boards there, here or there, some forums, but that was pretty much it. I mean, really, I was just going off of what I said with him and the research I had done with him, and now he's got this thing with CAFA. So, again, people, just take all this information and make the best decision for you. Make the best decisions for you when it comes to school board. You might say, look, I want somebody on school board like that because he's going to keep everybody else on their toes and he going to pull it out and da-da-da-da. Okay. I got that. That's fair. Whatever your reason is, just make sure it's an informed reason. Because, I would rather have somebody disagree with me and they're informed than to be ignorant and go out there and vote. So just educate yourself and take this as just one more piece of information. The use of our copyrighted logo on his website and Facebook page is a diabolical attempt to use race to sow confusion. A diabolical. Ooh, I think I know what that means, but let's look it up just for the hell of it. We want to be smart out here. We got to look up words. Diabolical. I'm on Google. Diabolical, characteristic of the devil, or so evil as to be suggestive of the devil. That's one. It's an adjective. Here's another one. Disgraceful, bad, or unpleasant. I think that's the way we'll put it, because I'm not ready to cast any man in the light of the devil, per se. Disgracefully bad or unpleasant. That's what diabolical means. How often do you use that word diabolical when you're talking about another human being? You know what I'm saying? Like, diabolical is right up there with like the Tulsa race massacre. Now that shit was the destruction of Black Wall Street. That was diabolical. And by the way, I did get a chance to see that Watchmen. Is it worth your time? I mean, if you really want to see it. Is it emotional? It can be. It happens rather quickly, and they don't say, like, they flash up the time and the place. It says like 1921 Tulsa, but it doesn't say race massacre. So it might send some people who see it like, what the hell, Tulsa, 1921, what happened? Let me look on and see. Let me see. Let me see if I can check out the Google rankings real quick and see if it's trending on Google. Because that'd be interesting. If the Tulsa race massacre was trending on Google. Let me see here. Well, I'm talking Tulsa race massacre. I bet you won't be there. It'll probably be on the Tulsa race riot. Damn whitewashing. Okay. So, let's say, the period between October 20th and August, I'm all over the place. The period between October 20th and October 26, 2019, there was definitely a huge spike in people searching it on Google. That's huge right there. You know what I just put together? OKC Thunder, Oklahoma riots, race massacres. How dare them brothers play for that damn state? I'm mad at Kevin Durant. Oh, yeah, there was a time when it was the Watchmen film. Okay, yeah. So that Watchmen film, that movie, that HBO special spurred an interest in Google searches between the time frame of October 20th and October 26th. Yeah, you can check that out. Let me type in Tulsa race riot real quick. And hold on, let me double check here and see. Clyde hasn't hit me back. He's like, Negro, I got things to do. Tulsa race, not Tulsa. So there's not an R there. Tulsa race riots. And we're going to put in 1921. See how many people have been. Okay. Well, you got to spell it correctly when you're doing it on Google Trends. That's what I'm on right now. It's just free. You can check it out for yourself. Tulsa race riots. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, there's been some general interest here, I see. But there was a real spike in October, like the second week of October, when the promotions for that television show. So that's interesting. Really interesting there. All right, let me go back to your chat, and then we out. Hey, I got things to do. You got things to do. We got things to do. Independently, if not together. But I want to get a chance to read all of your chat here. I thought Deanna was on point. Drop, did you hear what she said? So now you can stop that nonsense. You can go back and tell your buddies at the Black Republican Clubhouse that, Obama would have been much more effective. She said that in terms of what he was trying to do, his aspirations, his intentions, A. In terms of putting it into policy, C. Why? The Republican legislators. It was the Tea Party. And I will tell you the same thing I said then. If they can start a Tea Party, why can't we start a Tea Party? Remember the Tea Party? It worked. The Tea Party was all about Mitch McConnell's plan to basically put the Obama administration in a condom, a political condom, where they couldn't leave any real residue. They wanted to make sure that no DNA was left to stain the body politics or the way things were going. And they were pretty effective at it. And on top of it, Obama was still able to get some stuff done. People need to go back and really look at what really went down there, man. They really do. Whenever the media says Tulsa was a race riot, that's diabolical because it was a race massacre, Bunky. Correctamundo. Drop writes, Nate, don't sue me for promoting SN digital media. Depends on what you start doing. Get you a cease and desist letter real quick. Who Magic writes, Cafe was his lie. I mean, way into the black community, Nate. Was that right? Oh, man. Stop dragging Pastor into this, Nathan. You are such a pro-pastor guy, man. I'm a pro-pastor guy. I like Jeff Pastor. He's a very likable man. Yeah, seems like Jeff is a good guy. I hope you don't do something stupid, which I don't anticipate. Speaking of black local Republicans, I want to say it again. Charlie Winburn is back on the scene. Somebody said chicken wing Winburn. You are so wrong, so disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? And longtime local politician, looks like he's going to run for for treasurer, county treasurer. Not state, but county. I can see it. Maybe. TNT writes, the Tea Party transformed into Trumpsters. Yes, they were. It's that same element. It's all branding. It's branding. The Tea Party, we're going to take it back to the 1776. Who the hell's running around here like, let's go back to 1776? Nobody I respect. The Tea Party gave them a brand. It gave them something to get behind, right? And it worked to a T. That's not Pastor D. It's Pastor X. He just deleted it. I saw what you wrote. You mean Pastor X. Obama was still able to get across Latino and LGBTQ issues. How hard did he really push, Nathan? Y'all just ain't going to let that brother breathe. I mean, I'm telling you, there's no win with you. There's no win with the choppers on this. So I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see if Meagerly's able to get on the school board anyway. That'll be interesting. Oh, man. It'll be interesting. And next week you'll have an opportunity. I think they over at why am I drawing a blank? Let me see here. That's funny. Well, let me go to Meagerly's Twitter page real quick because we're Twitter friends right now. He's following me. I'm following him. We can see you. We see you, B. We see you. Let me see if he might have responded to it. Steve Meagerly. There he is. Is it Meagerly for council or thing like that? I'm telling you, he getting hella free press. Hella free press. Here he is. Cincy Megs GOP. Yeah, we following each other. Let me see here. What is this news conference? I see a news conference with Jeff Pastor standing behind Alex Triantafilo. What's all about? He's actually got some likes on here. Let me see. He's got 174 followers. Let me look at his followers. I'm following Mason Mahler fame. The chopper's all over his ass. Let me see here. Looking at names, people who are following him on Twitter. There's Alex and others. People just want to see, they want to keep their eyes on him. So you got judges and people's names on here are rising Republicans. Great. Let's see. He's not really posting too much on Twitter, though. He should get Fame to do his Twitter page. Hey, Fame, would you be open to do Steve's Twitter page, man? Should it be great? Wallpaper Wednesday. Oh, great. That's hilarious. That is hilarious. All right, I got to roll, y'all. I don't think we're getting any messages here. I ain't getting no messages for anybody like Clyde. So we out of here, okay? Have an excellent day. We'll talk soon, all right? Excellent conversation, I thought, from Deanna Hoskins. We're going to process that one. That's one for the books right there. Very informational. And again, that town hall's coming up this weekend. And if you can't, listen, why not go to the local one and be there in person, right? Even better. All right, so have an excellent day. And we'll talk real soon. Talk tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., bright and early. Have an excellent day. All right? Viva la Chapas, which means long live the Chapas. I'm Nathan Ivey, and I'm out.